Story time with Paul.
Greatest YouTuber of all time, PaulsEgo.
Wow. How is this appearance ever going to live up to that?
Someone says they need Scotty's voice to climax in the
Scotty's dead. We
yeah,
killed
Scotty's
Scotty.
not here. We fired him.
Paul ate Scotty.
Yes.
Yeah, he was delicious.
Paul was like, "Meow."
Slightly salty.
Yeah. This is for making me feel like a piece of shit 8 years ago, you bitch.
Did he really make you feel like a piece of shit?
Oh yeah, dude, he made me feel like a total piece of shit.
What did he do? Hold on, let's hear about this before we talk about
Well,
Brett Keane.
I think we kind of talked about it once, didn't we? Maybe
Little
not.
bit.
Maybe not on the show.
We might have talked about it. We might have addressed it. I don't think we actually got into what he said. I don't even remember what he said or what the video that I did towards you was about, but he was definitely... he was the more vicious of the two.
Yeah, because it was just blunt. Like, he just walks in out of nowhere. Like, I made some stupid video to TJ because I didn't like the ASU. And so TJ responded and had already ripped me an asshole. I'm already watching this video going, I can never go on YouTube again. Like, this is it. Like, my first YouTube video is going to be my last YouTube video. And then all of a sudden, and I had never seen Scotty up till this point because I was relatively new to TJ's channel. And Scotty, who at this point I think must have been like fucking 15 or 16 years old, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. He comes
something like that, around that age.
Yeah, he comes wandering in from outside and goes, "Hey TJ, what are you doing?" And TJ's like, "Oh, I'm just responding to some faggot." And fucking Scotty just watches like 2 seconds of my video and goes, "Why are you even bothering responding to this faggot? He's stupid. Like I can tell there's something wrong with him." And he just like walks off camera. You know? And I was like, well, that's fucking it. You know, fuck it. I'm over YouTube career.
That sounds like Scotty.
I can just tell. Look at him.
Just look at him.
Yeah.
Just
He said
pronounce
something about-
instant judgment.
He said something about my jowls too. Like, it was the worst fucking thing. Yeah, he was like, "Look at that fucking guy's jowls," and I was like, "Oh, god damn it!"
The guy has jowls.
His jowls.
That is fucking hilarious. But I can tell it scarred you in some way because you remember it so vividly.
I don't because I don't even remember
Yeah,
what the
dude,
fuck
I
that
told
was
you.
or about.
You don't remember the first ass whipping you get on a website. You know, you remember that.
Yeah, I wondered if I'll ever get mine. I don't know.
No, you've never had your ass whipping, have you?
Not really. Like, I've had people that have, like, got, like, their blows in and shit, but I can't really say that I've ever been, like, massacred where I watched a video towards me and was just like, that's it. Fucking hang up the hat. Fucking time to go.
Game over.
Game over, man.
I remember one time, Paul, you told the story of your first, like, physical ass beating because you insulted the Denver Broncos.
Bible?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah. That was an interesting story.
Yeah,
especially at
yeah,
the end.
I took a massive ass beating for not liking the Denver Broncos.
Well, at least it was well deserved.
Experienced, like, you know, the feeling of the fungal variety before in your life?
What do you mean, a feeling of a fungal variety?
Fungal.
It sounds like you're asking him if he's had like some kind of like.
Paul, have you read
disgusting-
Athlete's Foot? Come on.
Have I ever had jock itch? Is that what you're asking?
Oh, God, it itches so bad.
No. You know what I
Ask
mean.
if you ever tripped on damn mushrooms before.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yes. All right.
Sweet.
I don't know why he felt the need to be like.
I don't know. I don't know if
"Oh,
he wants this like out there. You know. I
If
don't
he
know.
does, he'd be like, I will not.
Just take
discuss
one look
that."
at Paul. You know he does mushrooms.
Well, he didn't know what I was talking about.
Walk up to Paul, like, eat this random shit.
Think
He's like,
about
I don't
what
know
Paul's life is
Anyway,
like. Of course, he's done mushrooms. God damn it.
We were all talking about it, like, you know, because we're going to Amsterdam and the shrooms are legal there.
Right.
But like, I don't know, man. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, Ben's being a big put about it.
Yeah, right, dude. Ben's gonna fucking be there and be like,
will.
yeah, I'm gonna do it, man. Yeah, whatever, Ben.
When Ben gets drunk and high, he'll be like, "Yeah, okay, I'll do shrooms too."
Yeah, the first lie I've heard about the trip is Ben's like, in Amsterdam, I won't be drinking. Like, of course, Ben. Sure, you won't drink.
Well, maybe I'll have one drink real quick.
And the next one is.
Of all,
go ahead.
Of all the illegal drugs that I've tried, mushrooms are my favorite.
Oh fuck.
Mushrooms
yeah.
are awesome.
Do you?
I agree with you.
Did you get
you have a story?
hallucinations or anything? Yeah, Paul. You got
Yes.
a mushroom
I
story.
want to hear a story.
You're a storyteller. Can you tell us?
Mushroom
I don't really
story.
have 'em.
Mushroom story.
I had I tripped on mushrooms. This is about a year ago, and my friend Brian and I were in the backyard because one of my favorite things to do is to go look at nature when I'm on mushrooms, because you notice little details about things that you never notice before. And all of a sudden, my friend goes, "Oh my fucking god, the ape tree!" And I looked up, and the fucking tree in my backyard looked exactly like a smiling ape. Like we could both see it. And that whole night we were just describing the ape tree to one another over and over again, and getting off on the fact that we both saw the same thing in the leaves, you know?
That's beautiful.
I
got kicked out of a strip club one time for filming a stripper with a camera phone.
Right. I mean,
That's awesome.
I mean,
Tell us the story.
I gotta tell this story.
I managed to fucking get away with it though. It was like one of the first camera phones ever made. And the guy took me outside and he was like, "Show me all the pictures on this motherfucking phone." And I was like, "Okay." And I managed to like somehow move through like a folder that didn't have the stripper pictures in it. And he was like, "Put that in your car." So I went out and put it in my car and got away with some stripper pictures. But
So do you still have the stripper pictures?
no.
Oh, you suck.
I know,
After
that
all-
was like in 1999 or some shit. It was
Well, but
retarded.
after all that, though, you know.
I know, after going through all that, after almost getting my ass kicked by a 350-pound black man.
Yeah, you know. You're just lucky he didn't know how your phone worked, and you know.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'd be a spatter on the ground.
Yep.
Well, you've had like 12 frozen burritos. I think you've had enough.
I want more,
There's
though.
never enough. It's never enough.
One day, me and Paul are just gonna sit down at like a Denny's or some shitty place like that, and we're just gonna try to fucking order the whole menu in one sitting.
We're not even gonna talk. We're just gonna eat.
Dude, that'd be
Communicate with our eyes. We'll just look at each
Yeah.
other, you know.
Okay.
We'll just
TJ
stare deeply into each other's eyes and fucking just devour the entire menu.
Dude, I want to shoot. I want to film this. I'm gonna put like epic like action like fucking movie music going on the backwards like da da da. Like Paul just taking a giant fucking like bite of pancakes, and like we'll have a slow motion shot, like a tracking shot going to his mouth, and just the satisfaction on his face, like yeah, I'm getting fatter by the minute.
Yeah, and then like as it goes on, it should get like more ominous and shit, and like we stop like relishing the bites we take. We
It's
just,
agony.
Just look like in sheer like pain and torture. Like we're not even thinking anymore. We're just like.
I imagine you guys being greasy too.
too.
You need to coat yourself like your face in Crisco before
We'll be
too,
sweaty
TJ.
by the time it gets to
Yeah,
that
sweaty
point.
and greasy.
We'll be sweaty like the. We'll have like sweat circles under our man tits and be like, ugh.
Start breathing really heavy. Oh god.
I can't take it anymore.
Another stack of pancakes.
DJ, pass the gravy.
Ah,
I
pass
can't.
it back when you're done.
I can't pass the gravy.
You can't pass the gravy without having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Too much work.
Call that bitch waitress over here and make her pour the gravy on my biscuit.
And then make her put the biscuit in my mouth. And then make her move my jaw so that I can chew it.
This has to happen.
And then make
now.
her
This has to happen.
my neck so I can swallow it.
Dude, we have to do this at some point.
Yeah, I
Here's
mean,
a
like,
tip of a 10-penny piece. Now feed me, bitch.
Here is 2 pence. That should be sufficient for you, wench.
There's a goat in the parking lot. Cook that up for us.
Yeah.
Bring the bedpan around.
This is like Cartman now. Toilet.
Yes, it's gonna be just like that. Well, you can't eat the whole menu if you're not passing it through you as well.
I've got an excerpt from Brett Keen's magnum opus.
Should we put a picture of Brett Keane up while that's going on? Come on, buddy.
Eternal Undying Love 3. Serpents in the Cradle.
Serpents in the Cradle.
I want to read you
Is the book dedicated to McDonald's, or what fast food place did he dedicate it to?
I hope this is good.
I want to read you some of the reviews on Amazon.com first.
Okay.
They're all
Just to
completely
give you an idea
legitimate.
of the caliber of literature you're about to hear.
This is an actual picture of Brett Kane.
Yes. The most helpful customer review is an awesome sequel to Eternal Undying Love. The storyline will keep you in suspense from beginning to end. Watch as the war between good and evil grows. Capture the development of each character in their struggle to stay alive in the face of adversity. A great book. 5 stars.
Wow.
Five stars.
That definitely was not Brett Keane.
No,
That was not Brett Keane that wrote
Not
that.
Brett Keane at all.
It was actually a Brett Keane hater.
I will
was
also
converted
tell you
by
a
the
little piece of
caliber
trivia
of his
about
literature.
the Eternal Undying Love series. The lead character, is literally, he's a detective, and his name is Detective Resner. I shit you not.
You're lying.
No,
Detective
it is.
Resner.
It's Detective Resner, the bounty hunter. Anyway, I will
Sergeant
read you
Manson.
this. I will read you this excerpt.
Lieutenant
from
Corgan.
Eternal Undying Love 3. Gamora walked in utter despair. She could hear the children laughing. It was almost as if the unborn mocked her. It was pointless to try speaking with them. Their souls were like flames, in that they knew nothing.
You got to do the snorts now because he does that.
Wait a minute. Their souls were like flames in that they knew nothing?
Their souls were like infants. Sorry. Infants.
Infants. Okay.
Their souls were like infants in that they knew nothing. It was strange that the dead situation, the dead were the most, at the most, could not interact with the unborn. Her mother had taught her long ago that the dead and... I can't even read this shit. It doesn't make sense. It's not, like, as a sentence, it doesn't make sense.
Do it anyway.
Like, I can't figure out an inflection. Like, I can't even use Brett Keane's flat inflection. My mind just halts at trying to read the sentence.
Just fucking do it. Read the sentence. Get through it.
Her mother had taught her long ago that the dead and love are of 2 different planes.
The dead and love are on 2 different planes.
This is like a 13-year-old's like emo novel.
Oh, keep going.
They will never know of one another until the you guys honestly, like, I've been reading a long time, and I'm having a hard time with this. Like, a genuine hard time figuring out how to even formulate this into a sentence. They will never know of one another until the living become dead. The sad paradigm was that once you were dead, you knew of nothing anyway. The damned don't even realize that they are damned.
You're in one of them damned situations.
You are so damned.
What a fucking mess, Brett. You should be ashamed of yourself for shilling this shit to your subscribers early on in your...
Are there any more reviews?
Oh my god.
Yes, I've got plenty of reviews for you.
Great.
I need
more input. If I want to read this myself.
Are there some negative reviews on there as well? I'm assuming from people who actually read this.
I will throw in a sprinkling of negative reviews as well.
All right.
Go ahead.
In fact, we'll get one right now. There's one, I don't know who would write this. It's a 1-star review entitled "Don't Trust the Author," and it says Brett Keane is well known on YouTube as a liar. He has accounts that he uses for flagging, so I bet that he has some accounts on Amazon to promote his book. Some of his reviews are most likely fake.
They're totally fake.
Yeah, no one reads that shit and is like, wow,
1-star
riveting.
writing at the 6th grade level. I bought a copy of this book, and it's a verified purchase, so somebody actually bought Brett Keane's book.
Wow.
Damn.
I bought a copy of this book through Amazon. The writing is extremely poor. This author doesn't even know how to divide text into paragraphs. That's why I was having a problem, by the way. So he inserts blank lines right in the middle of sentences to create the appearance of paragraphs on the page. That's how bad it is.
What? So wait.
That's
you mean
why
to
I
tell
was
me?
having trouble making sense, because the paragraph, he literally does, he just wants to make it look like he made a cohesive paragraph. So sometimes right smack dab in the middle of a thought or a sentence, the paragraph just ends and a new one begins.
What?
That's the Brett Keane style, dude.
That's an interesting style he's got.
You guys just don't appreciate creative writing, okay?
You're such snobs.
He's trying something new, and you gotta fault him for it.
Bunch of fucking
Experimental
Philistines on this
writing.
show.
Yes.
His writing has no rhyme or reason, punctuation, doesn't make any sense, has no structure. But you know what? At the end of the day, he's trying something new.
That's right.
Yeah.
He's a gifted communicator, an expresser of thoughts, words, and shit.
Detective Resner mused that the dead are like the living, but when the dead become the living, then the living become the dead, and
They are dead and not living.
by the time you're
But
dead,
dead.
by the time you're dead, you realize you're not alive.
I have to
It's the
read
great-
another.
It's
I
the
have to
great
read another
paradigm
review.
of life.
All right, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This review is a 5-star review.
Another Brett Keane review, in other words.
Yes.
Yes.
And it is entitled, and I quote, "The most intriguing works I've read this year." And intriguing is spelled ENTRIGNG.
Okay, that's 100% verified to be a Brett Keane review.
Oh my
And
goodness.
the review is as follows. This is one of the best books that I have ever read. The non-stop series of event will keep you on the edge of your seat.
Event.
This book this book bring to life the worst of our imaginations about the war between good and evil. Let me read that sentence again. This book bring to life the worst of our imaginations about the war between good and evil. With the dead rising from the sea and the war starts and the dying of the human race as a whole, this book will keep you in suspense from beginning to end.
An edge of your seat thriller.
Yes. Once you start, you will not be able to put it down.
A non-stop, pulse-pounding thrill ride.
Buying this book is a great investment for any family.
The whole family.
It's going to appreciate in value. People are going to pass it down for generation after generation. Like 300 years from now, people are going to be like rich. They're going to have kingdoms where they're just like, I own a copy of whatever Brett Keane's terrible fucking book
One
is.
day, people are going to come up to me and be like, "Didn't you know the Brett Keane, author of the esteemed, undying, eternal
What are you talking
bullshit
about? Brett Keane's
trilogy?"
gonna have such great influence. You're gonna meet a fucking Brett Keane prison camp. What are you talking about?
No, he's going to die early because, tragically, writers and shit, But then his books will be discovered posthumously, and he'll be recognized for the genius he truly was.
Right, of course.
And we'll all be, we'll all be morons. We'll be the idiots that gave him bad reviews.
Aliens will like land on our planet. They'll find this book and be like, "Man, humanity really did fuck up this place," and they'll just take off after that.
Yeah, Eternal Undying Love, the trilogy is the reason that aliens have not made first contact with our species. They were willing to look past the female genital mutilation. They were willing to look past the racial and economic inequality, but once they saw Eternal Undying Love 1, 2, and 3, they're like, "There is no hope for this species. We must go now."
I have what's called a pilonidal cyst. Right?
Sounds beautiful.
Is that the one that's like on over your ass or something?
Yes.
Oh,
It's
man.
right at the
When does the plus part of the story come in? I'm waiting for it.
You have no idea.
It was a thing of beauty. It's beautiful.
So, I have this pilonidal cyst, right? And I was
sexy.
born with it. It's a genetic thing. I was born with it.
Mm-hmm.
And my entire life, usually what happens with a pilonidal cyst is it flares up, it gets really painful. Somebody goes to the doctor, they say, "Okay, you got a pilonidal cyst." They do a really quick outpatient surgery, and you're done, right? The problem with mine is that it didn't ever flare up my whole life. I had it, and I kind of knew something was back there because when I was soaping up my ass at night, you could sometimes feel a bump there. But I had no fucking clue what the lump was, and it never hurt me. So anyway, fast forward. I'm like 20 years old. I'm living in Arizona in poverty, pretty much. I'm working at a coffee shop part time, living in a shitty apartment. Luckily, the coffee shop I was working for was Starbucks, and I had health insurance, but we'll get to that in a second. So I woke up one morning, and it was like the back half of me was on fire. What the fuck? It was like I had fallen out of a window and landed directly on my ass. It felt like I broke my tailbone.
Wow.
And so I got up. I managed somehow to work. I got to work. I managed to limp my way through work all day. I got home. I'm taking a shower, and I reached back to kind of feel, because I thought I'd injured my back.
Oh no, I know where this is going.
I reached back to feel, and there were two things I noticed. Number one, it felt like I had a third ass cheek.
Oh my god.
Oh.
The back of my ass was so, like the top of my ass crack was so inflamed and swollen that it felt like I had a third ass cheek. And there was like a hole. Now,
what?
Listen, I know what you're thinking.
That.
I know you're thinking, oh, Paul found his asshole. LOL, top keck. I get it. It was what's called a pilonidal sinus. Now I freaked out. I felt this thing and I was like, what the fuck is that? And my finger went into it a little bit and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh fuck.
So I leapt out of the fucking shower.
Turning into the Fly.
I leapt out of the shower and went to what?
Ben is dying. Ben is dying.
I leapt out of the shower, and I propped one ass cheek up on the counter of my bathroom, so that I could see in the mirror what was going on in my backyard. Right?
Oh, you didn't want to see it, did you?
I see it,
No.
and it's swollen, just like I could feel. And there's this black, I mean, infinitely black, like dark matter hole in the middle of this big swollen area on my ass, right?
Oh fuck. That's horrible.
It was like I think I said in the AMA it was like the eyeless socket of some eldritch god that had been dreaming for 1,000,000 years. It was like staring into the abyss. So I reached back there, obviously, instinctually, I reached back there and I just lightly pressed on the swollen area.
No, fuck.
All hell broke loose. This black tar shit it just exploded out of me, went all over the sink, all over the fucking mirror.
Oh fuck.
And it just kept coming. Like I stopped pushing. Instinctually I pulled my hand away and I was like, what the fuck? And it just kept it's just draining. This shit smells like dead.
Like dead.
Like if you're a country person and you've ever had like a possum or a cat die under your house, what came out of me was straight up death.
Oh man.
So needless to say, because of the excruciating pain and the black tar coming out of my new ass, I ended up in the hospital. I went to the I called 911. I went on an ambulance to the fucking hospital. I thought I was dying.
Did you
I
get
thought I had
out
some
of this?
I thought I had some kind of colon cancer that had eaten its way up and out my ass.
Paul, you are clearly making Kyle cringe with your story.
I'm sorry, dude, but it gets, I mean, it's
gotta
awful.
You gotta speak the truth, man. You gotta listen to the truth. Just the truth.
Did you get some Vicodin out of this at least?
Well,
or
oh
something?
yeah, dude, but that comes. Let me get there. So I get to the hospital. They take a look at me. They send me to a specialist immediately, and I lucked out. The guy that did my surgery, I ended up having surgery for this. The guy that did my surgery told me he was one of the foremost experts on pilonidal cystectomies in the world, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. He had done like 900 or 1,000 of these. So basically what they did to me, I was told that because I had this giant abscess, right, in my ass, and that abscess had ruptured inside of me.
Oh no.
That I was in, I had to be rushed to immediate surgery because I was in danger of a galloping septic infection, right?
Oh my god.
So they take me in. What they do is they took this big pocket, right, of shit, this abscess that had built up at the top of my ass. They cut it open. They open it up. They drain all the shit out. Then they burn everything inside of it to kill bacteria and all the dead flesh and shit.
Oh, damn.
And then they staple everything back up, and hope it heals from the outside or from the inside out. I had 17 staples in my ass. I couldn't work. I couldn't get out of bed for 2 months.
I shouldn't be laughing, but that's funny.
No, it's awful. It was the worst fucking shit. They gave me the strongest opiate I've ever been prescribed for anything in my life. I was on the moon for fucking 2 months.
2 months.
And,
Good googly moogly.
Yeah. And it was 3 fucking years before my ass looked anything like a normal ass.
Oh, wow. How old were you? How old were you when this happened?
I was 20.
Wow.
20. Like, sure. So earliest in life, at about 6, 7 years old, I was in a major car accident in a shitty car, and my dad slammed into a fucking tanker truck and barely had the time to hit the brakes. My parents were almost both killed, and it's a miracle that I survived it. So that was the first one. The second one was when I was 16 or 17, and I got carjacked and dumped naked in a field, which is a story in and of itself.
Did ants crawl up your ass by any chance?
No, it was too cold for ants.
Oh, okay.
It happened in November. Yeah, that's a story. That's a story. So maybe I'll tell that story. I don't know if the fourth one isn't great. The third would be another car accident. I was in a car accident that occurred at an intersection here in the little town I live in. It's a country intersection. People just barrel through there in the fog. And I was stopped there, and a big fucking accident happened, and I got swept up in it, and I almost died there. But the fourth closest I've ever come to dying, I genuinely think that I had a cannabis panic attack once that almost killed me.
Really?
Yes, and
so
it doesn't
weed almost killed you.
It's called
well,
pan.
no, I think the panic attack that I had while I was on weed almost killed me.
Okay.
I don't blame the weed. I blame my mental state. But there was a period of time where every once in a while, this never happens to me anymore, but every once in a while I went through this period of time where I was really nervous, and every once in a while I would smoke weed and get really like agitated. Like I'd get really aware of my heartbeat. Have you ever done that, like, at all?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
All the fucking
for
time.
sure.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
but
Not
like,
all the
think
time
about
for
that.
me, but it has happened.
Yeah, but think about that, but like to a really elevated extent. And so I smoked some weed before bed one night, and I was probably like 23 or 24 years old, and I just had the fucking like an 8-hour panic attack. I thought my heart was gonna stop. I got it. I thought it was blacking out, and I was just really fucking high. You know what I mean? Like that's the only thing that was wrong with me. But yeah, that's probably the. But I really felt like I was dying, much more so than the really than some of the other events on the list.
Would you say that this was a strain that was higher in sativa than indica?
Probably.
Yeah, because I've always noticed that if I smoke like a high sativa strain, I get like a heart that will speed up a lot more, and then indica just makes me want to sleep.
Yeah. No, I have to do like a hybrid between the two if I can get it, which thankfully I'm in Cali, so usually I can.
Yeah.
It's like ordering different kinds of hamburgers in California.
Yeah, we saw that in Amsterdam. There was like a menu, and it had like percentages of, you know, sativa / indica.
I honestly just don't even give a shit.
Well, somebody in the chat said that the weed that I smoked when I had that panic attack might have been laced, and that is true.
May have been.
It may have been. Like at that point in time, it wasn't medically legal in California to have marijuana. It was still a Class A drug in California.
TJ says he doesn't give a shit, but when TJ was freaking out, we gave him indica to calm him down. when
Yeah.
he was having like his culture shock moment.
TJ was a roller coaster.
I know.
Yeah, he really was.
Yeah, like I didn't give a shit. All right, we'll smoke because we smoked White Widow, which was like all sativa when we first got there, and TJ got all paranoid.
He was
and weird.
freaked out in public too. He's
Yeah, and then
Dutch
like,
people are so ugly.
and then later on,
culture shock, man.
oh well, you were high
That
as
was-
fuck too.
It was high as fuck. It's like Scotty and Ben. I gotta
Dude,
tell you,
you were-
something. Dutch people are insanely ugly. It's like I think you're just really fucked up, dude. He's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not, man. I have clarity of mind. They're fucking. I don't know what it is. They're
Yeah.
ugly. We're gonna get busted for this shit. I know we're gonna get busted. They're gonna come in any minute and arrest us.
You thought we were
It
gonna
was
get
not like that.
no.
Yeah, you were, dude.
You were nervous in the fucking coffee shop.
You weren't yelling that stuff. You were telling us like, man, dude, I know we get in trouble for this. I know something's wrong. Something bad's gonna happen, even if it's not.
But
the
then,
cops.
but then we bought like the Jamaican weed that was 100% indica.
yeah, I bought that.
Dude's like, yeah, it's cool here, man. I'm so like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I made him smoke my Jamaican weed blunt.
Yeah.
Blunts with the joints. And then he was fine. He's like, whoa, all right.
Well-
It's funny, dude, because you're like a litmus test for our weed. We're like, smoke this, TJ, and then we'd see how he'd react. He'd be like, yeah, I just smoked it. Or he'd be like, ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, since the fourth closest you came to death wasn't much of a story, I guess you could just
Yeah.
tell whichever one you want.
Sure. Well, I'll tell the carjacking story. A lot of people
Oh,
probably
God.
haven't heard that one. I've told it on my channel, but it was many years ago.
I remember it, but yeah, let's
Yeah.
hear it again.
If you're okay with it, I'll tell it.
I'm cool with it. Tell
yeah,
it. It's
go
an
ahead.
one.
Yeah. So I was about 16 or 17 years old. I don't remember which. And I was sitting. I had this little car. It was a Ford Tempo. It was a 1982 Ford Tempo, which is like, that's the fucking pimp ride of all
I
time.
had one before too.
Oh, yeah.
I had one
Dude,
too.
the Tempo.
PIMP.
Didn't we
Well,
talk
that's
about
weird.
that?
Yeah, we all have
Yeah.
tempos.
Was
man.
that like the car when you were like a poor like teenager?
guess so.
Yep.
Yes.
Basically.
Dude, one time
Dude.
I'm sorry to digress from your story, but
No, that's
one time
fine, that's
I was in that car and I
Oh,
went up to a
God.
Sonic with all this trash.
It's
in
like
the
a
back.
go-kart basically.
I had a 1991 Ford Tempo with the hood tied on with telephone string.
Yeah.
Wire, rather, not string. And
That thing was a beast, man. That car, it was a 5-speed. My car was a 5. It was a stick shift, and I just froze. It told me to put my head down, and the guy rested the gun at the back of my head.
out. We gave him indica.
15 years old. I don't remember which, and I was sitting.
But then we bought like the Jamaican weed that was 100% indica.
Yeah, I bought that.
Dude's like, yeah, it's cool here, man. I'm so like, oh yeah.
Yeah, I made him smoke my Jamaican weed blunt.
Yeah.
Blunts with the joints. And then he was fine. He's like, whoa, all right.
Well-
It's funny, dude, because you're like a litmus test for our weed. We're like, smoke this, TJ, and then we'd see how he'd react. He'd be like, yeah, I just smoked it. Or he'd be like, ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, since the fourth closest you came to death wasn't much of a story, I guess you could just
Yeah.
tell whichever one you want.
Sure. Well, I'll tell the carjacking story. A lot of people
Oh,
probably
God.
haven't heard that one. I've told it on my channel, but it was many years ago.
I remember it, but yeah, let's
Yeah.
hear it again.
If you're okay with it, I'll tell it.
I'm cool with it. Tell it. It's
go
an
ahead.
one.
Yeah, so I was about 16 or 17 years old. I don't remember which. And I was sitting. I had this little car. It was a Ford Tempo. It was a 1982 Ford Tempo, which is like, that's the fucking pimp ride of all
I had
time.
one before too.
Oh, yeah.
I had one
Dude,
too.
the Tempo.
PIMP.
Didn't we
Well,
talk
that's
about
weird.
that?
Yeah, we all have
Yeah.
tempos.
Was
man.
that like the car when you were like a poor like teenager?
I guess so.
Yes.
Basically.
Dude, one time
Dude.
I'm sorry to digress from your story, but
No, that's
one time
fine, that's
I was in that car and I
Oh,
went up to a
God.
Sonic with all this trash.
It's
in
like
the
a
back.
go-kart basically.
I had a 1991 Ford Tempo with the hood tied on with telephone string.
Yeah.
Wire, rather, not string. And
That thing was a beast, man. That car, it was a 5-speed. My car was a 5. It was a stick shift, and I still to this day drive 5-speed only. Like I don't care for fucking automatic transmission cars.
Oh, man.
I love being in control of the fucking gears.
Well-
I just learned on one. But
Yeah,
yeah, my first car.
Anyway, I was in a 1991 Ford Tempo. It sounds like the Ford
That's what I
Tempo
had.
declined between 1982 and 1991 based on what Paul is saying. But anyway, I was there and I had trash all over my back seat, and my hood was like fucked up and tied on with telephone wire, and I ordered a couple of foot-long chili dogs. And the waitress who came out to give them to me was just like, you know what? Just take them. Because I think she thought I was like homeless and living in this car.
When was the last time you had bathed prior to this?
I don't know. At that time, my bathing habits were maybe once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so there you go.
People literally like
You look
hated
like you've been
TJ.
sleeping in a car.
Like TJ was hated. Like when people would see TJ, like, oh, they would smell TJ first. He smelled revolting.
Oh,
his room was basically just like a fucking like you know a dog that rolls around on the ground.
I had to be TJ's roommate for almost a month in Europe. And like,
no thanks.
Could you imagine someone that doesn't shower also wearing clothes that he's already worn like 4 times?
I lived with him for a really long amount of time.
So like,
me.
someone who hasn't showered in 6 days is wearing clothes that he's already worn like 3 or 4 times throughout that 6 days.
That was disgusting. He started to smell really bad.
No, what? It happened. Yeah, it does.
He could have easily washed his clothes. He could have easily washed his clothes. Like we all washed our clothes.
I remember the time that the first time I ever bonded with TJ. Like really bonded. Like I liked TJ for a long time. I appreciated TJ's videos, but the first time I ever really felt a bond with TJ was at one point he uploaded a video, and I think it was to his TJ Does Live channel, maybe, where he talked about this time where his ass was itching, and he was in bed, and he didn't want to get up and wipe his ass, so he found a sock and wiped his ass with a sock.
Didn't you piss in jars too, TJ?
Yeah. Well, no, I would piss in like old discarded fast food cups.
I actually threw it at him one time.
And I've totally been there. And that was the first. Yeah. So you know, I understand, dude.
Wow. Thanks. Paul,
those piss cups were just
you and I are soulmates, man.
Yeah.
Anyway,
true.
tell your fucked up story. I'm sorry to derail it 12 times now.
That's perfectly fine. I welcome derailments when I'm telling stories, but that's just me. So I'm sitting in this Ford Tempo. I'm in a suburban neighborhood, not a great area of town. And it's probably like 10:30 at night. I'm listening to my stereo. I just gotten off the phone with my girlfriend at the time, and I was pissed off, so I was listening to the angsty music of the 90s. You know what I mean? Like 9 Inch Nails, The Perfect Drug on repeat. You know.
You are the perfect drug.
Such a good song. Anyway,
it is.
So I'm doing that, and these 2 guys walk by, and we lived in kind of this cul-de-sac. So they walk around the corner, and I see them as they're passing by my car, and I don't really think anything of it. They just walk by, and they go up and around the corner. And so I don't think anything of it, and I'm fiddling with my radio or something, and I look back up, and the guys are coming towards me with ski masks on. Now, at this point, I had a chance to like start the car maybe and gun it and get out of there, but I just froze. Like I couldn't. It was like something out of a movie. Like this shit just doesn't actually happen, right? So these dudes walked right up to the side of my car, and the dude stuck a 9mm through the window, and he said, "Break yourself, motherfucker." Now, luckily I had watched like 90s gangster movies like New Jack City and shit, and I knew what "break yourself" meant. So I went for my wallet. I grabbed my wallet. I passed my wallet out. He said, "Get out of the car." So he's holding the gun on me. And I get out of the car, and he says, "Give me the keys." So I give him the keys to my car, and he tosses the keys to his friend, who grabs me and walks around to the back of my Ford Tempo, and he uses the key to pop the trunk. Now, I had a big set of speakers. This becomes important later. I had a big set of speakers in the trunk of my car. That was the one thing about that car that was slightly expensive, was I had a pretty nice sound system in it. 2 big subwoofers in the back of my car. So he pops the trunk and he says, "Get your ass in the trunk." And I said, "Well, do you want me to remove the speakers and get in the? I'm not gonna fit in the trunk." And he looks, kind of looks and sees that there's speakers back there, and he's fuck. So he says, "All right, get in the back seat." So I get in the back seat of my car. The dude sits down next to me, holds the gun against my head, and they drive off into the night, right, with me. And so they start going through my shit. I was a high school student, so I had a backpack. They asked me at one point where the weed was at, and I didn't have any weed at the time. I was smoking cigarettes, so they said they claimed they smelled weed when they walked by my car the first time. And they basically they found my my driver's license and said, "You live with your parents?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, now we know where your mom's lives." You know, they did the whole threatening thing, and then at one point told me to put my head down, and the guy rested the gun at the back of my head, and they kept driving. Now they drove for a while, like a good 45 minutes probably. And I could tell that we were in the middle of nowhere because they were heading south on 99 in California, which
So
is
wait, hold on. What is your mental state at this time? I mean, like you just.
I'm preparing.
Are you thinking about like I'm about to die? Is
Yes.
part of your mind saying like maybe I should attack? There's the try to fucking escape or something, or are you just like hoping they spare you? I mean, what is the thought process of Paul with a gun to the back of his head?
I'm preparing myself to die. I have
Right.
this because I know that there's nothing in the direction that they're driving in. They're heading south on 99. South on 99 from where I was living at the time. There's nothing. It's farmland. For miles and miles and miles of endless miles, right? All the way to the coastal range. It's farmland. So I could see no other reason that they were taking me out in the middle of nowhere. So I was really trying in some way to prep myself for dying. Now, a lot of people ask, well, did you cry? Yes, I did eventually cry, but not during this going on. Well, while this is going on, I'm having all these thoughts about, like, I hope my family is safe. Like, one of the reasons why people ask me when they said get in the car, why didn't you run at that point? And part of it was I didn't want them to chase me into my house and hurt my sister or my dad or my stepmom. So there was a lot of that going on through my head. I hope that they're safe. I hope that, you know, if they kill me, that my family's okay. It's just a weird place to be in. And I had a long time to sit there and contemplate the end of my existence. Eventually, the car stopped, and I was told to get out of the car. And at this point, I thought, okay, they're going to shoot me because I look up and I'm literally in the middle of nowhere. There's farmland to the right, empty farmland to the left. The only light that I can see at this point is the moon. It's November. It's very cold outside. And so I get out of the car and I'm standing there, and the guy with the gun walks around to my side of the car and he levels the gun at me, standing a few feet away, and he says, "Strip, motherfucker." Now, at this point, what went through my mind is I'm getting raped and then killed.
God.
Which is fantastic. What a way to go out. And I said, "Everything?" And he said, "Yeah, everything." So I proceed to strip off all of my clothes, my hat, my pants, my underwear, my socks, my shoes, everything. He says, "Throw all your clothes in the back seat." So I do that. I'm standing there, stark naked. And he says, "You see that field over there?" And he points to the field off to the right. He said, "You're going to walk into that field, and you're not going to look back. If you look back, I'm going to be here, and I'm going to kill you." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Start walking." So I started walking off into the field, and I kept walking. I didn't want to look back. Eventually, I heard car doors slam, and then I heard my car peel out and leave. It was still a while before I had the courage to look back. When I finally did, the car was gone. And it's at that point that I collapsed and started crying, because I had survived something that I was pretty sure I was dead. But it wasn't very long that I realized that I needed to get somewhere because it was very cold, and I was going to freeze to death. So I started making for this little speck of light off in the distance, and it ended up being a farmhouse. And I kind of grew up out in the country, and so I knew at this point it was probably 1:30 or 2 in the morning maybe. I knew what my parents would have done to like a 300-pound fat guy who showed up at 2 in the morning naked on their porch in the middle of nowhere. So I didn't want to get shot by the person that I needed to call the cops. So I covered I dumped out a flower pot that they had decorating their garden, and I covered my dick and balls with it. And it barely fit over my monstrous cock and testicles. But I managed to make it fit. It was like one of those little tree planters.
Didn't you say before that, you know, you have the kind of testicles that like dip in the water when you sit on the toilet?
I'm not that bad yet, but big balls do run in the family. I have some respectable balls. They're pretty respectable sized balls. But anyway, so I cover myself up. I knock on the door. Eventually, a woman comes to the door, and it's one of those one-way screens, so I can't see her, but she can see me. And she yells, "What the fuck do you want?" And I said, "Look, ma'am, I was robbed. I don't want to hurt you or your family. Could you please just call the cops? I'll go sit at the end of your driveway." She said, "I already called the cops. Get off my porch." So I did. And I went and sat at the end of the driveway. The cops came. They put an APB out on my car. And while I was en route back to the town I live in a sheriff's vehicle, they caught the guys. So they caught the guys because they went back to town after they dropped me in the middle of nowhere and were driving in downtown at 2 in the morning with their ski masks on. And they passed a cop. And the cops saw them wearing ski masks. And cops, you know, being the horrible profilers that they are, thought that 2 guys in ski masks in the middle of the night in downtown might be a little suspicious. And then
hey, it was a cold night. Come on.
Yeah, I know it was a cold night.
Maybe the heater didn't work. Come on.
I mean, it wasn't exactly snowing, but it was a cold night. Yeah, but they decided that they were going to go on a police chase with the cops and their V8 Crown Victorias
in my little
5-speed 4-banger Ford Tempo. It didn't work out well for them. They ended up driving off of an overpass, and one of them got mauled by a canine unit because he tried to run. So that's my carjacking story. To bring it full circle, though, the next day, the big newspaper and a couple of the news outlets in town called me wanting to interview me about this. And I didn't want my name to be named. So they didn't say my name. But I told them the story basically like I just told everybody the story. And they printed, and I quote, the man said that they tried to force me to get into the trunk of my car, but I just wouldn't fit. Period.
man says.
So even in the instance that I am carjacked and dumped naked in a field, my friends get to fuck on me for being fat. That's the moral of the story. It's kind of weird. My dad came into town recently, and he may or may not watch this video. So if he does, hi, Dad. My dad and I have had kind of an estranged relationship for a while. And it's one of those things I don't really want to get into in public. It's just it's a fractured relationship, and it has been.
Tell us more of the details of your relationship. Get into it.
And how does that make you feel?
How does it make you feel, Paul?
You have the penis envy.
Yes, you have the Oedipus complex. You want to have sex with your mother. No, it's just weird. I don't know. When my parents got divorced, my dad kind of went out of his mind for a while, and with due reason. He was put through a lot of shit during the divorce, and but he didn't really know what to do with me as a young man, and so he kind of went the route of being my friend, which a lot of people go, "Oh man, that's fucking awesome!" Because my dad would talk to me about sex and dirty jokes, and
that was our dad too, for sure.
I was like a bar buddy with him. You know what I mean? More like a bar buddy than a son.
That's exactly the relationship we had with our father, so we understand.
Yeah. So you understand where I'm coming from. Then, in retrospect, like at the time, there were even times when I was like, "Man, my dad's fucking great." Like, everybody else's dad is like, "Keep it down," but my dad's like, "Oh, let me tell you a pussy joke." You know what I mean? Like there were times in my young adult life where I was like, "Yo, this is cool." But in retrospect, I probably would have rather had a dad. You know what I mean? And I don't fault my dad for this. He just didn't know how to do it. But anyway, we were talking today, actually. We went out to lunch together. He's in town today and he's leaving today. So we went to lunch together and we got to talking about old stories and stuff. And there's this one story that I've always liked because it's got a lot of characters in it, but I've never told it. So I got in real trouble one time because I fucked up my dad's trumpet. Now you have to understand about my dad is he grew up in poverty. And when I say poverty, I mean like barefoot poverty. Like they couldn't afford to buy him shoes. And on top of crushing poverty, his father was an abusive drunk. And it's just a fucked up life. Fucked up life for a young person to be raised in. And the one thing of worth that my dad had was this trumpet that he saved up money doing odd jobs all over town wherever he could while he was in high school. And he bought this trumpet, and it's a really nice trumpet. He still has it to this day. And one day, and he loved this trumpet. My dad's a pretty decent, kind of jazz trumpet player. And I, one day when I was a little kid, wanted to take it to school for show and tell because I loved it. He worshiped this trumpet and I worshiped him. You know what I mean? So this was an object, a fetish object that was very important to him because he had worked and bled and sweated for this trumpet. And of course, I wanted to show everybody because, of course, as a kid, you want to show everybody everything amazing. So he says, you can take it to school, but you have to be very careful with it. And I said, okay, Dad, I'll be very, very careful. I promise. I promise. He showed me how to, put it in the case and this, that, and the other thing. Anyway, I take it to school, and on the way home from school, this kid wants to see it. And this kid happened to be my next door neighbor on the way home on the bus. His name was Sean Johnson. I can use his full name because, there's a billion Sean Johnsons. So, but Sean Johnson, and he came up to me, and he had a speech impediment. And he said, hey, P-Way. He used to call me P-Way. My PJ was my nickname growing up. Hey, P-Way, let me see your trumpet. And I was like, nah, man.
Fudd.
Yeah, he had the Cindy Brady thing. I'm not making fun of people that have that. I know it sucks, but that's how he sounded. Hey, P-Way, let me see your trumpet. And I was like, I don't want to bring it out on the bus, man. It's going to get damaged. He's like, let me see it, man. And I was like, fine, fuck. So I opened it up, and he grabs it. He reaches in and grabs it, and he's like, huh, and he's turning it over in his hands. I'm like, man, give me that fucking trumpet back. And so he's like, okay. Gives me the trumpet back, and I put the trumpet in, but I put it in wrong. I put it in upside down. And I went to close the lid, and I kind of slammed the lid because I was pissed at Sean Johnson, and it dented my dad's trumpet, right? Now, this is not like something that's unfixable. You can have your trumpet repaired and shit. But as a kid, that's the scariest shit that's ever happened to you. Am I right? Like you damaged something that your father is like it treasures.
Yeah. I feel you.
So I was scared out of my fucking mind. So I concocted the world's filthiest lie. I decided to take a little bit of truth and throw in a dash of good old PaulsEgo fiction. And I made up this story that Sean Johnson had stolen the trumpet and dropped it. Wasn't what happened. He was fine with the trumpet. He didn't do any damage to it at all. I was the one that had damaged the trumpet. So I go home, and I'm like, well, I'm going to play this angle first. Maybe my dad won't even notice the dent. Maybe I'm just looking at it, and I see it because I know it's there. He hardly ever brings the... And at this point, it was true. He didn't bring the trumpet out very often. He had a flugelhorn that he played most of the time when he played. He didn't like playing with his trumpet because it was, special to him. Anyway, so I was like, maybe he won't even notice. He noticed immediately. He immediately opened the case, examined the trumpet, saw the dent, and pulled me aside and said, "What?" And my dad was never a yeller. He was not a screamer. My dad was a very simmering, quiet anger type of guy most of the time. I have heard him scream and yell, but it was very rare. So he leaned into me and he said, son, what happened to my trumpet? You want to tell me what happened to my trumpet? And I just burst into tears, and I was like, it was fucking Sean Johnson. I was on the bus, and he wanted to see the trumpet, and I told him no, and he made me open it, and he stole it, and he dropped it. I'm so sorry. And he said, son, are you telling me the truth? I said, yeah, Dad, I'm so sorry. I was trying to be good with him. He's so stupid, fucking Sean Johnson. So he goes, okay, you're coming with me, and he walks across the street to the Johnsons' house. This is my worst fucking nightmare come true. The Johnsons, as it turns out, were wholly unreasonable people. They were the types of neighbors that everybody thinks of when they think of the bad neighbors. They were just like, they'd call the cops on you for no reason. Just slimy, like they were the gossip center. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they always were talking shit about everybody else, and you knew for a fact that they were talking shit about you when you were home and everybody else was at their house. It was just, they were just not good people. My dad walks across the street with my hand, and he knocks on the door, and Sean Johnson answers the door. And my dad says, son, can you get your mom or dad for me, please? And Sean goes, okay, not knowing anything, not knowing that he's done anything wrong, because in this incident, he hadn't really. He goes and runs and gets his mom. His mom comes to the door, and my dad calmly explains to her, your son damaged something that's very important to me today on the bus. PJ, go ahead and tell the story. And Sean is standing there looking at me. And I'm like, Sean was on the bus, and he grabbed the trumpet, and he dropped it, and it made that. And Sean was like, no way, P-Way, I didn't drop the trumpet. I didn't drop the trumpet, Mom. And so his mom gets down on her, on one knee, and she goes, Shawnee, did you drop that trumpet? I swear, Mom, I didn't drop the trumpet. I held the trumpet, but I didn't drop the trumpet. I swear. She goes, Shawnee, you're lying to me. And she grabs his arm, lifts it up, and starts whooping his fucking ass right in front of me. And I'm sitting there.
Oh, man.
I'm like, what the fuck? At this point, as if shit couldn't get any worse, Sean's dad literally comes riding down the street on a horse.
Oh my God.
I used to live out in the country, and people had horses and would ride them around the neighborhood and in the fields and shit that were around there. So here comes Shawnee's dad on a horse. And Shawnee's dad is the stereotypical right-wing Republican, shit-kicking, Wild Bill for America, just neocon, racist piece of human garbage. He drunk all the fucking time, violent. He comes riding up, gets off his fucking horse, and strolls over to my dad like he's John fucking Wayne and goes, "The fuck's going on here?" My dad said, well, your son, Sean, dropped my trumpet today on the bus, and it's not, it's literally, it's not that big a deal. We can repair it, but I wanted to see if you guys would chip in on the repair. And Sean's dad does kind of the same thing that his mom had done. He goes, Shawnee, did you drop this man's trumpet or whatever the fuck? And Sean said, no, Dad, I didn't. Of course he hadn't. And Dad turns around and says, fuck you, get off my property. My son didn't drop shit. My dad nods his head and turns around and kind of leans down to me and whispers. He said, son, I'm about to get in a fist fight. And I just need to know that you are not making this up as a lie, that he actually dropped this trumpet. Because if he dropped the trumpet, then, and they're not going to pay for it, then I'm gonna kick his dad's ass. But if it's a lie, I need to know now. And I, of course, said, okay, it was me. I just closed the thing on it. And he goes, okay. And he walks over to Larry. Larry Johnson was this guy's name. Walks over to him and says, I'm sorry, sir. Won't happen again. Shakes his hand. Walks over to Sean and apologizes to Sean. Walks over to his mom and shakes her hand. Grabs me by the hand and walks me back to the house. And he beat my ass. We got to the house, and he beat my ass harder than I've ever had my ass beat in my entire life. And that's the story.
Okay.
So you should have doubled down on the lie, because then he would have been the one with his ass beat.
Such a happy
Exactly.
ending.
right?
You know, you can't bail on a lie.
Half
after-
measure.
Yeah,
It
you
was a half
can't
measure
bail on a
lie.
lie when the pressure's on like that. You
He
know.
was so convincing when he was like, "I'm not going to be angry. You're not going to get in trouble."
Oh, you fell for that.
Oh, that one.
Okay, yeah.
I promise I won't be mad. Just tell me the truth. Okay,
Yeah.
Mom, I did it. What the?
Yep. And then out came the fucking belt, and he beat my ass for that. And I probably deserved it because he had to humble himself before some really fucking shit-eating people. So
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's true.
I definitely had an ass beating coming for sure. So this story time with Paul comes with a caveat that in itself is kind of a story. Okay, I hurt myself recently. I injured my ribs. This is why I was so fucked up on Friday's show when it fell through. I injured my ribs. I went to the emergency room and because I thought I was dying because it felt like I was being stabbed over and over again every time I moved. And so they gave me some meds and blah. What I found out is I just really like tore a muscle in my side in between my ribs. And it takes a while for that to heal. So I've been like super medicated. And I was talking to my friend Miles last night, and we were smoking some pan and reminiscing about the good old days. And I remembered that I used to be in this band when I was in high school. When I was about 14 or 15, I was in a band, and the band, and I say band with air quotes because it was literally just a guitar and three guys singing songs, right? But we used to sit around and smoke pot and drink and write songs and record them on this shitty little one-track tape recorder. And my friend Morgan, who is one of the three guys, along with me and Rodney, who made these songs, recently uploaded them to SoundCloud. Now, there was one song in particular that I wanted you guys to listen to tonight on the Drunken Peasants, because it's about a sensitive subject for TJ, I think, and I can criticize it now because I'm not 14 anymore, but I did not have the most nuanced view of Marilyn Manson in 1995. Okay.
Boo.
I know.
There was a
Boo, how dare I? I like Manson now. I dig Manson. But back in the day, I was not the biggest Manson fan. And that's what you're going to hear tonight. If without further ado, Ben, if you could take it away. This is a song that I wrote and improvised live while high off my ass at 14 years old. It is called Marilyn Manson, Blah 1 2 3.
And it's by Apple Nasty.
Yes, that was the name of the band.
Apple Nasty. All right, the world premiere.
With Marilyn Manson. Blah, blah.
Hey, you know what? Manson stole that shit from you. Manson stole that shit. I'm sorry, but like when you're like blah blah, like he fucking used that in a song later. So
Did he?
I think he heard this and stole
Shut
your
the
shit.
fuck up, TJ, and listen to the song.
All right, but I'm just saying, it's kind of weird.
Marilyn Manson, blah 1 2 3. Blah 1 2 3. Blah 1 2 3. I said blah. 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 Blah 1 2 3. We think we're vampires, but we're not. Blah, blah, blah. We're just a bunch of faggots and wear a lot of makeup. Oh my God. On stage, masturbating with turtles.
Masturbating with turtles.
I think I'm gonna shit on the audience again. Think I'm gonna shit
Is
on
that
the
you?
audience again.
Yes.
Think I'm gonna shit on the audience again. 14-year-old beaters, and I like it a lot. Whip it out and stroke it and suck it down. 1 2 3. Stroke it and suck it down. If you're 10 years old, if you're 10 years old, like your mama or something, think we're vampires, but we're not. We're the faggots for makeup. We wear a bunch of makeup and smell like bone rot. Cause I'm a faggot.
Okay.
I said something about smelling like.
I'm a faggot. I said blah, blah 1 2, 3. Maryland man said, fly 1, 2, 3.
Dude, wasn't that guy on like Mr. Belvedere?
Yeah.
Mr. Belvedere.
So
It was
you
pretty
know,
good.
if that.
I liked it.
Top the charts, dude.
So, about 2007, I was up late one night. As I was often in those days, I was working at Starbucks and was working the night shift for a while and was up late. So, I came home one night and like I did a lot of nights, and I sat down at my computer. And I'll admit something to you, Brett, just to show you that I'm a humble man and I'm not afraid to take some slings and arrows myself. I jerked off. I did it. Everybody does it. It was late. I was a stressful day at work. I relieved some tension. You know what I mean? And then I was like, well, I'm not tired yet in this situation, so I want to watch some YouTube. So I loaded up the old, and you remember the old school YouTube, right, Brett? How it looked?
Yeah.
Wasn't it so much better back then? Not to digress.
Better.
So much better, right? The rating system was better. The layout was better. The channel options were better, right?
I also love the way you could have your own background in your channels. It was great. It was just.
It was cool. It was cool. You're right.
Yeah,
So anyway,
yeah.
sorry, I got off topic there. So I was watching some YouTube situation, and I came upon a Brett Keane video that had just been uploaded. You must have been up late that night too, because you were all the way. So you might have been up really early, Brett. Let's put it that way. You're all the way on the other side of the world, or the states from me. And this story is the first story time with Paul that has a title, and the title of this story is, and I quote, "Erase My Innocence." Okay? Because that was the name of your video, Brett. That's the name of the video that came up when I popped onto YouTube that night. And I hit play on that video, and it was you with some music, some bad techno music playing. And you were sitting there looking very forlorn at the camera. And there were words overlaid over your head. Words of a poem, Brett. Words of a poem that you titled "Erasing My Innocence" by Brett Keane. That was the title of this video. Okay? I watched it all the way through. I thought, not my thing. I'm not really into poetry, and I went to bed. I woke up the next day, and I saw another video, this time from an atheist named Judalicious. Now, I just happened to catch this perfectly. She uploaded a video putting your video side by side with a poem by a woman called Judy Burnett. I know you know that name, Brett, of course. And this poem was called Dad. And it went side by side. And what you had done, Brett, is you had done what every plagiarist does. Because no man, I think it was Abraham Lincoln, was it, guys, that said no man has a good enough memory to be a successful liar? Was that?
It might have been Mark Twain, but yeah. It
might have been Mark Twain, yeah.
Yeah.
One of those old white dudes, right?
Yeah.
No man has a good enough memory to be a successful plagiarist. And there's one thing that serial plagiarists like yourself, Brett, can't resist, and that's changing things around a little bit in the source material to make it your own. So you changed a word here and there. You removed any reference to Dad, even though the video was called, or the poem by Judy Burnett is called Dad. You removed any reference to Dad in the poem. You added in a couple of lines here for Brett Keane flourish, and you uploaded wholesale somebody else's work and claimed it was your own. And it was at that point that your entire fucking channel unraveled. You started doc dropping left and right, accusing people of calling you a pedophile or some weird shit, and you were gone within a week. That's how it happened. And there were hundreds of people that remember it exactly that way. I've talked to them. So that's story time with Paul. It's called Erasing My Innocence by Brett Keane. And the reason I told that story tonight, it's not as funny as some of my other stories, but I think tonight, on this momentous occasion, and I want to remind everybody that we were there when this happened.
We were there, man.
Tonight, I thought that it was only appropriate that I tell a story about a man who has come in here and accused people of scamming accuse people of stealing money, accuse people of robbing, misrepresenting themselves, calling people names, attacking people's families. And the only person in this room that has ever perpetrated is Brett Keane. I was having a bad day one night. And I was living with a couple of guys. We were all it was like that too. And we were all sharing the rent in this little condo. And I was having a really bad week, actually. And I came home on Friday, and Saturday was my day off. And I managed to cop some really good pan. And I wanted nothing more. Now my roommates were part of the problem. They were driving me fucking nuts, right? Having to deal with their bullshit.
They were driving your nuts. Gotcha.
They were driving me nuts like Cody Weber drove you nuts.
Gotcha.
They were just loud.
That's hardcore.
I feel your pain.
I didn't even know you were into that kind of stuff.
You know what? There was speculation about gay love between TJ and
all true. All true.
Definitely true.
It's gonna be all in my tell-all book. You gotta read it. Eternal undying love.
Just to give you an idea of the mental acuity of the guys that I'm talking about, one of them one time, we told him he needed to start trimming his balls, and he went upstairs with a pair of scissors and cut a hole in his nutsack so big.
What? Well, hold on. Pause the story. Pause the story.
You're lying.
No.
I will tell this story. Let me digress and tell that story.
Yes, please.
He comes home one night, and he comes home and he comes lumbering into the room, and we're all a bunch of us are sitting in the living room when he comes home, and we're all stoned and watching a movie or something. And he comes walking in, and he's got this shirt on, this like Abercrombie and Fitch shirt on that's like 3 sizes too small for him. And everybody's just staring at him as he walks in. And he walks in front. He walks in front of the TV and starts to go upstairs. And one of my friends, Sean, who was sitting on the TV, goes, "Hey there, tiny shirt." And everybody lost their shit. He was like, "Whoa, it looks good." We're like, "No, dude, we can see your rolls and shit. It's not a good look." But anyway, that same night, we were talking to him, and he was like, he had a girlfriend. And he was like, so-and-so, I don't remember her name, so-and-so doesn't want to go down on me because she says it smells all the time.
Oh, my God. He had, like, swamp crotch or something.
Yeah. And I was like, well, dude, do you clean up your situation down there?
Your situation?
Your individual situation.
And he was like, what do you mean clean it up? I was like, do you shave your balls and your dick? Like, do you shave your pubes a little bit? Clean it up. He was like, no, man, that's for girls do that. And I was like, dude, no. You need to trim your pubes. You'll get blowjobs. And he was like, okay, well, I'll think about it. And I didn't see him do it, but he went into the kitchen and got the fucking kitchen scissors.
Oh my
Went
God.
upstairs to the bathroom. About 10 minutes later, I shit you not, I hear... And I'm going, what the fuck is going on? I jump up off the couch. Everybody leaps up off the couch. And my friend, my roommate, comes running down the stairs with his pants off. And he's cradling his balls in his hands. And he said, and I quote, "I cut my sack open."
Oh my God.
Oh, man.
And I said,
why?
What?
Why?
And he was like, I was trying to trim my balls, and I cut my sack open, and I said, what were you trimming with? And he said, the kitchen shears.
Oh, you're going to kill me, stop. Are you having sympathy pain?
So he had to go to the doctor and get a stitch put in his scrotum because he cut a diamond-shaped chunk of his nutsack open.
Oh my God. I give up on life.
TJ's crying.
I give up on life.
How stupid can you be?
So that gives you an idea of the mental acuity that we're working with here.
So that was the story within a story, right?
Yes.
So now back
that was
to
a little PaulsEgo story inception.
Storyception, yeah.
So I was sitting at home one night, and my 2 roommates had gone out for the night, and they were like, we're probably going to crash somewhere else. We'll see you tomorrow. And I was like, oh my God. I was just like, yeah, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. But inside, I was rejoicing because I didn't want to be around these idiots. I didn't want one of them to cut their nut off in the middle of the night, and I have to drive them to the fucking hospital high. I wanted to get baked and sit at my computer and do nothing for like 8 hours. And so they leave. I do that. I get super baked. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching movies and YouTube or whatever the fuck I was doing. And about 1 a.m, they fucking stumble through the door, drunk as skunks, loud, and they have a chick with them. And they all just kind of stumble through the living room, and they're like, "Hey, Paul, what's up?" Ooh, making all kinds of noise, and they all go upstairs together. And about literally 3 minutes later, there's an orgy going on upstairs, right above my head. And the chick that they had brought was a performer. Not an actual sex performer, but she was like one of those chicks that had to show how good it feels all the time. So she's up there like, and I'm just downstairs hating my fucking life. So all of a sudden, there's this pound on the door like it's a cop. And I jump up and I'm looking around like, where's my fucking stash? I gotta put it away, fucking stash. And I get everything put away and I go to my door. Now I had one of those doors that has a peephole in it and a little glass like window above the peephole that you can kind of peek through. So I look through the peephole, I see nothing. I look above the door and I'm looking out and there's nobody there. I'm about to walk away and somebody goes again. And so I'm like, fuck. So I open the door a crack and it's this guy I knew from high school. He was a Japanese kid and his nickname was Yoshi. And he was about 5 feet tall and weighed about 280 pounds. He was a rotund, tiny little man. And I go, oh, and I didn't even know what the fuck was going on. I was like, oh, Yosh, what's up, man? I haven't seen you in a long time. And he's like, where's she at? Now, instantly my mind is going, oh, shit. I wanted to say, to be honest with you, I wanted to say she's upstairs getting fucked 2 ways and moaning real loud. But I remembered that he's dating this chick the last time I knew. And so I was like, I don't know who you're talking about, man. He's like, she's here. I know. Their cars are here, and she left with them. She's here. And I was like, Yoshi, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, man. But you need to go home because I don't appreciate you standing on my porch and talking shit like this. I was like, you need to go home and sleep it off. You seem a little drunk. And he goes, fuck you, man. I slammed the door in his face and I run upstairs. I open the door and I'm treated to my 2 roommates performing what they deemed the wobbly H on this chick. One of them is on his knees and fucking her mouth, and she's on her hands and knees, and the other one is fucking her ass. They call it the wobbly H. And so I open the door and I see this, and they don't even react. They're like, "Hey, what's up, Paul?" And I was like, and I was like, oh, and I started to look away, and he goes, "Hey, Paul, check it out, Eiffel Tower." And he puts his hands up. They put their hands up and give each other a high five over her body as they're fucking her. Yeah. So I'm like, guys, Yoshi's downstairs, and the dick comes out of her mouth immediately, and she's like, oh my god, are you fucking serious? And I said, yes, he's downstairs, he's cop knocking my door and threatening to kill people. And then she's like, oh my god, oh my god. So she gets in the closet. I go back out to deal with Yoshi. He's still at the door cop knocking, screaming now, so I'm sure people in my neighborhood are going to be calling the cops soon. I let him in. I open the door. He bursts through my door, runs upstairs, and starts haranguing my friends, throws some big box of shit down the stairs, and leaves. I'm sorry, it's a very anticlimactic story, but it's just, it's pertinent, I think, because it's such a fucking thing living with people.
Right.
You always have to live waist deep in their shit, you know? And it's never good. So, wanted to talk about getting drunk tonight. Since we're on the Drunken Peasants, I think it's only appropriate that I tell this story. This is not a story of the first time that I got drunk, but the first time that a friend of mine got drunk. We were about 16 years old, and a friend of mine, his parents went out of town. And he wanted to have a get-together and drink some beers and smoke some cigarettes and have fun. So he invited us all over. Now, I had been drinking for a couple of years, regularly, at least. I started drinking pretty early in my teens. But this one friend of ours was raised in a pretty strict household and was a pretty sheltered guy. And he somehow got his parents to agree to let him spend the night somewhere. So he showed up, and it was his first time drinking. And we had some beers, and I think some like Jack Daniels. And we all sat out on the back porch and drank. And for the most part, the guys that were there were cool because we had all, you know, had our first beer before. But this one guy, he got Jim ass drunk and
shit.
got belligerent and started yelling and throwing things and knocking chairs over and shit and just being a general asshole at the party.
What
right?
What a dipshit.
I know, seriously. Who knows anybody that does something like that, right, Jim? Anyway.
Yeah, dumb motherfucker.
Yeah. So I finally confronted him.
ass.
And yeah, exactly. And I sat him down, and I had to talk to him. I was like, shut up, Jim, you cunt. So anyway, I sat this fucking guy down, and I get him to
shit.
I know, right?
Okay, Jim.
Kick this fucking Jim ass out of this room. How dare he sully
Move
story
in.
time with Paul.
Move in.
Boot his bitch ass.
Sorry,
Goodbye,
Jim. You
Jim.
didn't pay us enough.
Didn't pay us enough, Jim.
See you in the next $20,000 payday, you fucking retard. Anyway,
what a
where
fucking
was I?
dildo.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, what was it about?
The great Jim ass, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Anyway, where was I?
kayfabe
I don't even know if I need to tell the story. Maybe we just end it there. Oh Jesus God. Are you there?
Fucking dildo.
Finish it.
Finish
You
it.
gotta,
Okay.
gotta plow through.
Okay, I gotta get through this one. Okay, so I said he's being an asshole. And it's the first time he's ever drunk. So I sat him down and I said, look, dude, you're being a fucking cock. Nobody likes you right now. You just need to stop. Number one, you need to stop drinking. Okay? And immediately. And number two, you need to just settle down. Just chill out, play a video game or something, man, and calm yourself. You're way too rowdy. We're having a chill night here. And he kind of chilled out for a little bit. But when we would go pee or leave the room, he would sneak into the kitchen and pour himself another drink. And so he just got worse and worse as the night went on. And he became this kind of beast of a man. His humanity was gone. And he was just a dick and willpower. You know what I mean? And we were sitting outside with him and he was being all quiet. And he's shooting me the stink eye across the table. Like he's giving me this look, you know, this like... And I'm like, I let it go for a while, but it just kept going, and he wasn't blinking or anything. Just you know. So finally, I said to him, I was like, dude, can I fucking help you with something? Is there a fucking booger hanging out of my nose or something? Like, what's going on? And he looks me right in the eye. And I've never believed a person more than I believed him in this moment. He looked me right in the eye and he said, I'm going to fuck you up the ass. Now, at this point, I kind of backed off a little bit. I laughed. Well, it kind of let out a little bit of nervous laughter, but I noticed, I was hoping he was joking and just feeling better and stuff. But I noticed that he just... Exactly. I noticed that while everybody else was having a nervous chuckle around the table, he was still just shooting me that look. And so I said, look, man, you need to fucking chill. You're not gonna fuck my ass. Not on my watch, buddy.
Oh my.
He gets up and pushes the chair over and comes at me. And my fighter yeah, he came for me. And my fight or flight instinct kicked in. And it was flight all the way. I'm not a fighter. It was flight. It was, I got to get the fuck out of here. Now, we were out in the country at a house with a big backyard that had a giant hill that went down. And at the bottom of this hill, there was this basin with a pond in it. And I'm somehow managed with my chubby frame to juke him and get past him and start running down this field. Now, it's important here to talk about the clothes that I'm wearing. This was if I was 16, this would have been 1995 or 1996, and I was a fat kid in the 90s, and fat kids in the 90s wore really baggy pants. I'm sure some of you can back me up on that, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I still do.
Yeah. I do too, to be honest. I don't like fitting pants even today, but we wore like really baggy pants. And so I start hoofing it down this hill, and all my flab and blubber falls into a rhythm where it's just pumping me forward. Just blop, 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 and I'm just trudging myself down this hill, and my pants are starting to come down. So I'm grabbing the front of my pants, trying to lift them up as I'm running over this, and I can hear him behind me, and he's not saying anything. And I can't really hear his footfalls because we're on grass. But I can hear his breathing, and it wasn't the breathing of a man that was joking. It was the breathing of a wild animal that wants to put its dick in something. So I'm trying to run as fast as I can down this hill, and my pants fall down. And they go around my ankles, and I take flight. Now, a couple of things happen as I supermaned myself into the air down this hill. The friend, if I can call him that was chasing me, leapt at me at the exact moment that I tripped and caught me in midair. So I want you to imagine me flying through the air like Superman, with my friend, his arms around my waist, flying behind me. He grabs me around the waist and pulls my ass into his crotch. We're still in midair when this is happening, by the way. Pulls my ass into his crotch and starts dry humping the shit out of my ass in midair.
I'm gonna fuck your ass! And you're gonna be humping.
So, as if that wasn't bad enough, the land was coming up. And when we landed, I landed with the full force of my body on my chest. And he landed on my back, crushing all of the air out of my lungs. And continued as soon as we landed and bounced a couple of times and skidded to a halt. He pulled me up to where I was like face down, ass up position, with my arms behind me and my face in the grass and my ass in the air, and he just started doggy dry fucking me. And I can't breathe.
People in the chat were saying that you were wearing Jenkos.
Junkos, for sure. And they got me into this mess. So, he's dry fucking my ass. I can't breathe. Junkos, for sure. And they got me into this mess. So, he's dry fucking my ass. I can't breathe. It just keeps going, and he gets more and more insistent about it. And I somehow, at some point, managed to squeak a little bit of air into my lungs, and I was gonna tell him to stop with my next breath, but all that came out was no. No! And that seemed to abate his lust for my virgin butthole, and he snapped out of whatever he was doing and just said, "Oh, I'm just kidding," and walked away, and left me a sweaty, broken man at the bottom of a hill with his face in a and his ass freshly reamed. So that is the story.
He was just kidding around, Paul.
Just kidding.
Learn to take a fucking
Come on,
joke,
yeah.
Paul.
That was a joke, dude.
Who hasn't been thrown to the ground, dry humped, and fucking decimated?
Let the peasants decide my fate tonight. Have you heard enough of Paul losing? Do you want Paul to win one tonight? Or would you like to hear Paul lose a little bit more?
I don't know. Scotty, what do you think? Win or lose?
I'd say win. Paul can win.
All right, I'll let Paul win.
Pauls have won
tonight. The wins have it. So, I used to work at a Blockbuster video situation.
With individuals.
And with a few other CSR individuals. And one day I woke up and I was feeling kind of shitty. Kind of under the weather feeling you have, that tickle in the back of your throat or whatever. But I decided, fuck it, I'm going to go on and go to work anyway. It was a closing shift. It was going to be an easy one, hopefully. So I went on ahead into work, and almost as soon as I got there, I started sweating profusely, like just dumping sweat, right? I mean, my fucking like little blue Blockbuster shirt was soaked, like around the neck and back areas, you know? And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to fucking help people with these wild fucking crazy eyes and that jowly fucking look you guys saw in that fucking picture that person put up on me. So anyway, I was sitting there sick as a dog, and my fucking manager comes waddling out, and she's like, "Are you okay, Paul?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just powering through it, you know, I'm gonna be okay. I'm just gonna be all right." And she's like, "Paul, you need to go home. You look really, really sick." And I was like, "No, I can stick it out." So I did. I stuck it out for a while, but I just got worse and worse and worse. And finally, like, I don't know, 10 o'clock, maybe 11 o'clock at night, I finally went to my boss and I was like, "Look, can you fucking send me home?" And she was like, "Yeah, go. I sent you home an hour ago. Go, you know." So I went home, but on the way home, I was like, you know, I could eat. Now, there's very few times where I couldn't eat. But I thought I could pick up something to eat. What's on the way home? Jack in the Box. Okay, I could do a jumbo jack tonight. A meal situation, you know, with the jumbo jack and the fries, and the soda. So I went and picked that up and got home. Now my dad, I was living with my dad at the time, were out of town. They were out of town right now. And normally, when my parents are out of town, there would be a party going on at my house, but I was too sick. So I got home, I went into my bedroom, I flicked the light on, and there's my sister and two of her teenage friends in my bed in various stages of undress. The entire place looks like a fucking tornado hit it. A tornado that went through a homeless person's encampment and picked up all the 40s and deposited them, you know, all over the fucking room. It was insane, the amount of debauchery that had gone on in this room. And all I could think was looking at the bed was, fuck, I just want to fucking sleep. I just want to get in my own bed and sleep tonight. Like, that's all I want in the fucking world. So I woke my sister up. I shook her leg and I said, you gotta get up. You gotta just take the girls out into the living room or upstairs to your room or something, man. I'm sick. I really just want to eat this hamburger and go to sleep. And she just was non-responsive, you know, just kind of shaking her leg. And then finally, I went to wake her up again, and she sits bolt upright in the bed and looks me right in the eyes, and she says, "Fuck you!" Now, normally that wouldn't, I mean, it takes more than that to rile me up. But this night, this particular situation, I was fucking done already, and she just caught my last nerve, and I said, "Listen to me. You're gonna gather up these stupid drunk bitches, and you're gonna take their stupid asses upstairs to your fucking bedroom. I'm gonna go outside and eat my hamburger. And by the time I'm done eating this burger and these fries, these drunk bitches are gonna be out of my room and upstairs. What did you?" She starts yelling at me, but I just fucking slam the door to my room and I walk out front and I do exactly what I said. I sat down in the fucking front lawn. I had my soda and my fucking hamburger, and I'm getting everything out. I lay the fries out. I have a couple, you know, they're still hot. I'm good. I have a sip of my soda, and all of a sudden I hear this clatter coming from inside the house, and lights are going on and shit. And my sister comes storming out. Now, it's like probably by this time 11 at night, maybe midnight. And she's screaming at the top, "What the fuck did you call my friends? You fucking bitch! Blah, blah, blah. You never talk to me that way," and yada, yada. You know, just mouthy, drunk, belligerent. And I'm sitting there, Indian style on the ground with my fucking hamburger in one hand and, you know, my napkins or something in the other hand. And I look up at her and I said, what is your fucking problem? The cops are going to get called now because you're being a loud, drunk idiot out here. What the fuck is your problem? Just go. Why aren't you in there waking your friends up and taking them up? She said, what did you call my friends again? She said, "You called them bitches. I dare you to fucking call them bitches again. I dare you to say it." Once again, Normally, I'm not the kind of guy to be goaded by such situations, especially not by drunk people. But tonight, like I said, was not her night. So I looked up at her very somberly and I said, "Your friends are stupid drunk bitches. Now what happens? What's the big fucking woo-ha here?" And as I'm talking shit, she reaches back, hand back, keeping the pimp hand strong. She reaches way the fuck back and just fucking codswallops me across the face. Knocking spit and fucking, I tasted blood afterwards, and I just sat there for a second. Yeah. She busted my lip open. I mean, she hit me right in the lips, like fucking popped me, just BAH! And I'm vaguely aware at this point, after the slap just went down, I'm vaguely aware of her still yelling and talking shit. And then the next thing I notice is there's blood in my mouth. So I reach up and I test, I see the blood, and I'm like, fucking broke my fucking lip. And then I turn and I look at my left hand. And there sat my jumbo jack, all unwrapped, ready to be eaten. And I formulated a plan in my mind, a devious PaulsEgo plan that would get me exactly what I wanted if it went the way that I thought in my mind. I had a moment of brilliance, a moment of clarity. Call it a fever dream, if you will. Maybe it was my illness that was stimulating some part of my brain that I hadn't used before. But in that moment, I saw what I had to do, and I stood up very calmly, and she's doing the teenage girl thing, wiggling her neck back and forth and wagging her finger at me and yelling some incomprehensible teenage girl bullshit about how I'm never going to talk, blah. And I look at my hand, and I tip it, so I'm holding it upright with the burger sitting in my hand, and I tip the burger, and I start reaching back with the burger in my hand, and the bun, it was perfect, it was so serendipitous, the bun naturally falls off, exposing all of the cheese and pickles and meat, that fucking really low-grade 90s meat, and just grease and mustard and mayo and lettuce and just rotten-ass fucking soggy tomato, and it all is just bared. And I reach back, and she's got her eyes closed, wagging her fucking finger at me. I reared back, and I shoved that hamburger right up her fucking nose. Now, a couple of things happened at this moment that bear noting here in the story. Number one, I heard a sound that sounded like one clap. It was like this, and it was after I had hit her. It was after I had hit her. So it wasn't the burger hitting her face that made the. I didn't hit her hard enough to do that. I looked for the source of this snapping sound, and I see my car in the driveway behind my sister. And sitting there is one of those soggy tomatoes stuck to the fucking driver's side window of my car, and it's just fucking stuck. So such force did I put behind this blow that it literally just fucking stuck that tomato to that fucking window. And she's standing there. Her hair is filled with cheese. Her fucking nostrils have like chunks of meat and ketchup and shit fucking just jammed all the way in them. And she's got this look on her face like, it wasn't disgust, it was shock. It was utter just like... And there's just a blob of mustard, and like lettuce all over her chin and her face, and like I fucking dusted my hands off, and I sat down on the grass, and I ate my fries. My little sister disappeared in the house. I figured probably to call the police or something. So I figured, if I'm going to go to jail tonight for assaulting somebody, I may as well go with a full stomach. So I ate my fries, I drank my soda. When I was done with that, I went inside, and not only were the girls out of my room, but they had cleaned up all of the beer and wine bottles and all the shit that they had been drinking, that they had strewn. They fucking cleaned up, made my bed, and folded it back, ready for me to get in. That is the only time in my life that violence has solved the problem.
And they say it's never the answer. Well, that proves it wrong right there.
Yeah, violence is sometimes the answer. It worked in that case. I went on to find out that I had mononucleosis. which is horrible fucking respiratory infection. I was down for like 3.5 weeks. I couldn't get out of bed. I was shitting myself and pissing myself in bed. So I paid for my transgression, feminists, okay? I did strike a woman, but I spent the next fucking 3 weeks shitting and pissing myself.
Technically,
So-
you didn't strike her. The burger struck her.
That is true. That is true. Last week, I told a story about feeding a hamburger the wrong way to my sister. And I gave you guys the option of choosing a story where I win and choosing a story where I most definitely lose. And a bunch of people asked me on Twitter and my Ask FM to tell the story where I lose that I was thinking of. So I figured, why not just tell that one tonight? So,
For sake of completion, sure.
yeah. I grew up, and I've talked about this before, with 5 sisters. I have 1 biological sister and then 4 stepsisters, 2 on each side of the family. And at one point, I was living with 3 of these sisters and my mom. And I was the eldest among them. So I was supposed to be like a role model and play with them and help them with their homework and all that shit that you expect a big brother to do. But they, the 3 of them, together, are the most evil entity that the world has ever conceived on this planet. The 3 of them together are just awful. And they would fuck with me all the time, constantly fucking with me. But I was stupid, and I thought, you know, every time they'd come to me and ask me to do something, I thought this time is going to be different. This time we'll just play a game. So they came to me one day. I'm like, PJ. It's like, what? Do you want to play a game? We're bored. And I was like, okay, what game do you guys want to play? Do you want to play the game of life? And I was like, whatever, I guess. I mean, I was happy that it wasn't one of those games that takes forever. I don't know if you've ever played the game of life, the board game.
Yeah, I played.
Yeah, I've played it.
It's an insipid fucking game that's completely meaningless. There's really no rules. I mean, there are rules, but I don't know. It's just it's a silly.
That's
fucking
appropriate, man. It's like life, you know.
It really is. I mean, it's like the worst thing that can happen to you in the game of life is that you end up a fucking hardworking loser, you know? Like that's, you know, that's how you lose at the game of life, being somebody that works for their money. You win the game of life, of course, by being somebody that does absolutely nothing for a living and rakes in tons of money.
Yeah, that's real nice.
So I sit down to play the game of life, and we're playing, and things are going just fine. They're being really nice to me, which is a little disconcerting, but I decide to go with it. We're playing the game of life, and I look away for a second to like stretch, you know, I'm stretching my neck, and I look away, and out of the corner of my eye, I see my sister, my biological sister, take my piece and move it back. And I stopped her. I said, hey, you just moved my fucking piece. No, I didn't. I didn't move your piece. Yes, you did. I fucking watched you. I have eyeballs. Like, I saw you move the piece. I'm not gonna fucking play with you guys if you're just gonna cheat. So I moved my piece back, and they were like, whatever, you're the one that's cheating now because you're moving 2 spaces. And I was like, no, you moved me back. Let's just play. So we continued playing. Few moves later, same fucking shit happens. Somebody's close to my piece, and all of a sudden I'm 5 spaces back. So I said, look, at this point, I'm about to fucking walk away. You cheating fucking assholes only bothered me today because you wanted to poke me with a fucking stick. Well, congratulations, you've done it. I'm pissed now. Quit moving my fucking piece. You just need to calm down. You're getting angry over nothing. I'm not getting angry over nothing. You're cheating at the fucking game. I could be in my fucking room listening to the radio right now. So I get more and more heated, and they all are now smiling ear to ear and going, "You're the cheater. You're the cheater." I, of course, being unable to back down in the face of adversity, am going, "I am not the cheater. You are the cheater by virtue of your moving my piece." In the middle of this tirade, and this is something that happened several times in my childhood. You might notice a little parallel with last week's story. In the middle of my tirade, my sister, my biological sister, rears back and bitch slaps me across the face. And the entire room erupts in the sound of girly giggles. Now, it took me a second to process what had happened. She hit me right in the lips, and I backed off, and I was like, she just fucking hit me in the lips, and then the giggling came into focus. And I was instantly filled with the most soul-crushing rage that I've ever felt in my entire life. I've never been more angry than I was at this moment. I looked at them, the three of them, and they were probably, you know, aging in range from 13 to 10 or 11 at this point. And I imagined myself picking them up and breaking them in half with my hands and pulling their faces off and then dumping the bodies in a vat of acid and then pouring that into a fucking river so that nobody ever found them. I was literally completely murderous with rage. And I turned and I looked at them, and you know, I'm just all puffed up, you know, that angry man thing that we do, that the shoulders were high and the face was screwed up, and I did the only thing that I had to do. I looked right at my sister who had slapped me, and I said, and I ran to my room. The rage, the ass-puckering rage that had filled me had nowhere to go because I'm just not a violent person. And so when it came, all I could think to do, the only emotional response that I could muster was to literally scream and cry. Now, I was 16 years old when this happened. 16! And I'm standing there getting laughed at by a bunch of preteen girls who had just slapped me in the face and made me weep. It's the most embarrassing thing. So anyway, I go to my room and I slam the door and I lock it. And I'm laying on the bed going, my mom overhears this ruckus and comes running down the hall, banging on my door. PJ, are you all right? What's wrong, babe? And I'm like, go away. Just leave me alone. I don't want to ever speak to you again. You know, and she, being the good mother that she was, put a cherry on top of the humiliation sundae by forcing the girls to come in while I was still they had to come in one by one and apologize to me for making me cry. And when they did it, they walked in looking very solemn because my mom was standing behind them. But when they got my attention and got in front of me, they all smiled. I'm sorry, PJ, that we hit you and made you cry like a little bitch. So that is one of the many stories where PaulsEgo loses. So I wanted to talk about trolling tonight because, you know, we have Jim S., a notorious internet troll, here with us, and I thought maybe we could discuss trolling and the genesis of trolling. See, I've said before, and I back this up, I plan to back it up tonight at least, that I've been
prick.
Jim, listen.
Yes.
You might learn something. So
Yes.
I've been trolling since before trolling was called trolling. This is true. A lot of people say, well, Paul, how is that possible? You claiming to be the first internet troll. No, I'm not claiming to be the first internet troll. But I was trolling before trolling was trolling. Now, how did you do
fucking
this?
dick mother that motherfucker is?
Goodbye, Jim.
Bye, Jim.
Go away, Jim.
Have a fantastic night, Jim.
He's very impolite.
I hope you have a fucking horrifying, disfiguring car accident on the way home, Jim. Anyway, I love you, Jim. Just kidding. I don't love you. I was trolling before troll. He's got me all fucked up now, man.
That's what he does, man.
Yeah.
He throws people off their game.
Yeah.
That's his whole shtick.
I was in my groove. So anyway, how do you troll before the internet even exists, TJ? Do you have a guess?
I don't think you were
Prank
alive before
calling.
the internet.
I would say
existed
prank
in
calling.
some form.
Well, okay. Before public access to the internet was a commonplace thing in the house.
Fair enough. How do you do that? I don't know, Paul. You're going to tell me, I'm assuming.
You use a CB radio. Okay?
Yeah.
I had this friend whose dad had a truck with a CB radio antenna on it and a CB in it. And he used to let us get in there and play around on the CB radio, not knowing that it was the start of a federal criminal enterprise. So we got on the radio, and we used to just listen to people because it was funny to listen to the truckers because they would get salty with each other as they were driving through town, you know. And we decided that we wanted to jump in on this, so we started keying up. Now at this point, we're both 10 or so, so we have these high-pitched, squeaky kind of voices, right? And we start keying up and going, "Hey, you're a faggot!" And then, you know, the truckers are, "Who is this? You need to get off. You need to get off your daddy's CB, boy."
Yeah, CB radios were the internet before the internet. You're totally right.
They really were. They totally were. And it was just an endless supply of gullible idiots. So we got more and more boisterous as time went on. And we developed what's called your handle. Now, on the CB, everybody's got a handle, kind of like you do here on YouTube. TJ, you're the Amazing Atheist. I'm PaulsEgo, right? Back then, I was the Whiz Kid. Okay? Everybody in my little area knew me as the Whiz Kid, and I was found on the same channel every night trolling truckers as they came through. And I had supporters and detractors amongst the trucking community. There were people that thought I was really funny, and there were people that genuinely wanted to kill me, as I would come to find out. So one night, my friend and I are fucking around on the CB, and this dude whose handle was Ghost Rider, we're fucking with him. We're like, "You're a faggot, you know, go suck a dick, queer," you know, and he's like, "I'm gonna find you, little motherfuckers." And we were like, "Whatever." We thought our anonymity was secure. See, the problem with CB radios is that they are a flat wave signal that can be measured by a little needle. Okay? And the higher the needle goes when somebody's talking, the closer they are. So if you have a lot of time, which this guy did, because we were on for hours, like 6 or 10 hours at a clip, just fucking on these truckers as they pass through. This guy took a break from his trucking and used his equipment to track us down. And he goes quiet for a while, and we continue fucking with truckers. He lets us continue to talk. And then all of a sudden, he keys up again, and his needle goes all the way to the end. And he's like, "How's about the corner of 145 and Avenue 16, you little cocksucking sons of bitches?" And we were like, "Holy fuck!" He starts driving up and down the road with a spotlight hanging out the side, like a big fucking flashlight, just shining it all over the house. So we hit all the lights. This was years before the actual trouble happened, right? So this guy finally goes away, finally loses interest in killing a couple of young children that night, and goes home. John and I, my friend, we continue to fuck with truckers for years. I'm talking literally years. I was a teenager by the time I finally got in trouble. I was about 14 years old when I really got in trouble. And the way I got in trouble was this. There was this guy whose handle was Hightower. And I didn't know it at the time, but Hightower was a fucking psychopath. So one night I'm fucking on Hightower, and he's talking about his wife, right? And he's like, you know, don't fucking, you say whatever you want about me, Whiz Kid, but don't talk about my wife. And I was like, "I fucked your wife, Hightower. I fuck your wife every night, Hightower. She's a cunt, Hightower." And he was like, "Oh, you little motherfucker." And he goes away for a while. Well, of course, I keep talking shit to other people. And Hightower shows up at my house. Now, at this point, I was alone in the house. And this dude is parked out in front of my house. And I sat and I watched him through the slit of my little, window. I watched him eat fucking McDonald's and sit there and talk. "Whiz Kid, are you going to come out and get your fucking brains beaten in, you little faggot?" And I just sat there the whole night and watched this guy. Didn't want to call the cops because I didn't want to get in trouble. Long story short, my mom got a phone call about 3 days later from the sheriff of our town. The actual sheriff, not his secretary or a deputy or whoever handles phone calls. The sheriff called my mother and said, excuse me, ma'am, are you aware of what your son gets up to on the CB radio? She's like, yeah, you know, I hear him in there messing with his friends and stuff. He's like, it's actually a little more complicated than that. We're going to need your son and you to come down to the station, have a little chat with us. So my mom rounds me up and takes me to the sheriff's office. There's the sheriff, a lawyer, and a federal agent in the room. Whatever the FCC's agents are, some representative of the Federal Communications Commission. Apparently, I was in violation of a slew of broadcasting laws, starting with being too young to legally be on a CB radio, and ending with using massive amounts of profanity. They had me for making threats against people's children, wives. He was like, you've made threats against people. We've been following your little CB career for a long time, Paul. And you've made threats against people. You have used profanity at least 1,000 times this month on publicly owned airwaves. Do you realize that what you've done is a federal offense? And I almost shit my pants. I started crying. The guy goes on. He goes, but that's not really why I called you in here today, because we could have just slapped your mom with a fine and she would have put your CB up in the closet and you'd never be on it again. But he said, I want you to know something. He said, does the name Hightower mean anything to you? And I said, yeah, he's a guy that I talked to on the CB radio. He said, that guy that you know as Hightower on the CB radio killed his wife last night in cold blood, shot her in the back of the head while she was sleeping. And we're prosecuting him for capital murder. We also know that he sat out in front of your house and that he regularly carried his weapon with him. So do you understand that these people that you're messing with are not fucking around, Paul? And that was the end of my YouTube career. But I literally had, or my YouTube career. My CB career ended that day with a federal official telling my mom that she faced prison time if I ever touched the CB radio again. So I don't actually know if I'm legally allowed at this point to broadcast my voice or image anywhere. I might still be under legal constraints.
Oh,
but
shit.
I'm kidding.
It's funny, though, that, he was so protective of his wife, but then he shot her. I wonder if it's because you were fucking her, He's like, I fucked your wife,
I've always wondered if he thought I actually fucked his wife.
Yeah, it's like, you out there fucking 14-year-old kids, die, bitch.
One of the other guys, there was another guy called the Duck.
The Duck. He's cool.
Guy said, does the name the Duck mean anything to you? And I was like, yeah, the Duck's one of my friends on the CB. He was like, the Duck is a registered pedophile. The Duck.
Huh? That's why he was your friend.
The Duck molested his 2 grandsons when they were about your age and served federal prison time in the 70s for it. The Duck is not your friend. So I've been thinking a lot about manliness lately. Manliness has come up a lot in the discussions that I've been having with people. Somebody was asking me about like this whole alpha male, beta male thing. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's heard that, right?
Yeah.
Certainly that sort of thing does exist, right, in nature, the whole dominant male thing. But like, I've known some fucking dangerous men in my life. I've known some quote unquote alpha males. And you know what the one thing that they all have in common is? I've never Well, that too. But no, I've never once heard them brag about being alpha males.
Exactly correct.
And I don't understand why this current crop of quote unquote alpha males feel the need to crow at the top of their lungs from the top of every rooftop what fucking alphas they are.
Small dick syndrome.
Shut the fuck up, shirt guy.
Know an alpha when you saw one. That's a guy I don't want to fuck with. Now you've got to announce it on the internet to everybody what an alpha you are and what a beta everybody else is. Anyway, I digress. I wanted to talk about manliness because, as you'll see in the spider video that's forthcoming from Beyond Fear, I cringe and whimper like a woman for about 15 minutes while she and her roommates formulate a plan on how to get rid of the spider. And I started thinking about some of the things that like people in my family have gone through, and how disappointed they must be in me. my uncle, for example, was in Vietnam, and he's a very nice person. He's not one of those like, Charlie's hiding in the bushes type of guys. But when he tells stories about some of the shit that he saw in Vietnam, it's just like like how does a human being hold up under that type of fucking thing day after day? With the big spider, like he told me one time, he said, PJ, they have this snake in Vietnam called a two-step, because after it bites you, you take 2 steps and you're dead. And we lost, a couple of guys to those. Anyway, this is not the funniest PaulsEgo story. It's a story that comes to you secondhand from my uncle, who was a Vietnam vet. But I've always loved this story because it's so fucked up. It just shows you how fucked up war is, right? So my uncle is in the jungle in Vietnam on a patrol. With him, he and his platoon are patrolling the fucking just jungle in Vietnam. And they become aware that there's a squad of Viet Cong shadowing them. And they try unsuccessfully a few times to fire at them, and they never really get a lock on them, but they know they're being followed. But the problem is they're out in the fucking middle of nowhere, right? And they've got to stop and rest at night, because you can't be traipsing through the fucking jungle at night. So at night, they would set up a camp in a clearing, which may seem counterintuitive. You'd think you'd want to be amongst the trees, but when you're fighting Charlie, the man in the black pajamas, the gooks, if you will forgive my anachronistic term, you can't trust them to just like you can't be safe amongst the trees. You gotta have open field. You gotta be able to see them coming. So they would set up in an open a clearing, and they would set up claymore mines facing outward all the way around their encampment. And one dude would have the job of staying up all night with his finger on the trigger of the claymores. So if the enemy charged out from all directions from the trees, they're going to eat a face full of shrapnel, and all of them are going to be dead. So my uncle pulled this duty one night, and he went through the whole night, said he was hearing things out in the darkness, went and woke up, or called his chain of command or whatever he had to fucking, I don't know, I'm not a military guy, and was reporting, hey, I see movement in the trees, I'm hearing movement in the clearing, please advise. And the guy was like, ready the fucking claymores. So my uncle was basically for like 6 hours waiting for daylight with his thumb on this claymore button, right? Never happened. Nothing ever happens. He doesn't push the button. They're packing up. And of course, because my uncle was manning the button, he has to go and help wrap up the claymores. And like I said, not a funny story, but here's the punchline. When they went to go get the claymores, somebody had snuck in to the camp and turned all of the claymores around so that they were facing inward at all of the American soldiers who were camping there. So if one of them had fired off a weapon or come charging out of the darkness, my uncle very well might have ended his own life along with that of his whole platoon. That's a man.
Please.
Ladies and
Jim's getting on the
gentlemen, Jim
bandwagon.
asks, hey, Jim, I hope the 10 grand was worth it, buddy. You really contributed tonight.
10
Thanks, man.
grand? That's cheap.
Yeah, you
That's
know what?
cheap.
I love how you're trying to sound all moral, oh, I don't like to eat animals, I'm moral, but I know you like cow dick and bull puss and...
Good night, folks.
That is true. Paul did go on and on about it.
Story time.
Was that
with Paul?
Did I just ruin his story time there? Did I steal the
You
punchline there, Paul?
You just dropped the bomb.
Oh.
Bull.
Hey, did you guys notice there's a Cheese Whiz canister in the background there amongst all this classy shit?
Paul's a
I
refined
just
gentleman.
noticed that,
He's a refined
I've always-
gentleman.
I have a picture of this somewhere, and I've always tried to zoom in to see if there's any like if there's anything on the lines of any of these books, like that would be kind of cool, a little detail. But yeah, no, I caught the Cheese Whiz.
I just saw it for the first time. I'm impressed.
Really?
Jizz.
Yeah, it's very subtle. Fuck you.
It's filled with jizz.
I'm gonna tell us. I'm gonna tell a story tonight about video games. Since we have Razor here, I thought it would be not that Razor only does video games. He's also makes a pastime of being incredibly wrong about guns.
Yeah, you go ahead and tell that story, Paul. You go ahead. Tell us the
Jim,
story.
have you been drinking again?
Has he ever stopped?
I don't.
That's like that's like asking the Pope if he's been fiddling little kids today. Like, of course,
come on,
Jim's
Paul.
been
It's a low blow, Paul. Low blow.
Jim can't fucking get
Literally
out
a
of
low
bed
blow.
without a fucking big slug of Johnny Walker Black Label.
At least he has good taste.
Hey.
So, shut the fuck up, Jim. So shut up. You might learn something. I used to play a video game called Ultima Online, and it was back in the 90s, and it was one of the first commercially successful MMORPGs, if that makes any sense to people.
Oh, you're such a fucking dick mother, Paul. You motherfucker.
Can we kick this fucking faggot out of the room?
Goodbye,
Oh, shit.
Let's give him another chance. One more chance.
Come on, Jim. Simmer down, Jim.
All right,
Okay,
fine.
I'm sorry.
You know what,
sorry,
Jim?
I'll listen.
Jim, look, as much as I dislike you, I trust you. You're not going to interrupt me again, are you?
Of course not. Why would I ever
You're gonna be a good little dinosaur, aren't you?
I am not the dinosaur. That's my dinosaur.
That's a good little dinosaur. Now sit and shut the fuck up.
Hey, go suck on a bull's puss.
Hey, it's an oldie but a goldie, folks. It's even better the second time.
Oh man, it's like
fourth.
it's like regurgitating butterscotch ice cream. You know, it's slightly pleasant, but overall just a bad experience the second time around. Look,
Fireball Z.
Oh fuck!
All right, goodbye. Bye, Jim.
Jim Ash, you're gone. You're gone, Jim. You're garbage, Jim.
Oh man, I love Jim.
You fucking drunk. We still love you, Jim.
I love you, Jim. I love you, Jim. Look, I used to play Ultima Online, and I know it's like World of Warcraft, right? But it was very, very early World of Warcraft. It had an isometric top-down perspective. It wasn't very, very pretty to look at, but it was a really cool game because it allowed people to do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. Now, I know that, Ben, you play a little bit of the Old Republic, Star Wars, the Old Republic. So you're aware of, like, and I've seen you play I've seen you played a little bit of the Star Trek MMO as well, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of know how it works in MMOs, where, like, nowadays, when you die in an MMO, you don't lose anything, really, except for time. Right? You just kind of appear back at a fucking gravestone, and you got to run back and keep going and doing what you were doing. In Ultima Online, if you died, you lost everything. All your shit. Yeah. Anything you were wearing was fucking gone, right? So it added this whole level of... and on top of that, outside of towns, which was made up a very, very small proportion of this giant world map in Ultima, you could kill people. You could attack any...
Also, it's PvP too.
Wasn't Diablo 2 like that too? And also, like, if you
in
died,
the hardest modes of Diablo 2,
if you died, someone could like run up and take your shit while you were dead too, right?
Diablo 1 was like that.
Okay.
The first Diablo had this toggleable. I don't know what the fuck they were thinking. I mean, I loved them for it because I had so much fun playing it. But it had this toggleable PvP switch that when you hit it, it allowed you to affect other characters with your spells, but they didn't have to consent to it. So it wasn't like a dual button or something. It was just like, oh, let me just turn this on and fucking hit you with a lightning bolt and then take all your gear. Peace out, faggot, you know? But this game was like that. So, but dying wasn't the end all be all, but it could set you back a long ways. Like if you died and lost everything in World of Warcraft, you're fucked, right? Because you spent, years getting that fucking equipment. In Ultima, you could make your own equipment. You could scrounge up money and buy some decent equipment and be back in the game. But you don't want to get killed, right? So it adds this whole level of intrigue to the game that just doesn't really exist in modern MMOs anymore. And I started playing this game, and I learned very early on that the rules in this game were that there were no rules. That the most cunning, the smartest, the most ruthless person was always going to win at this game, no matter what.
It was kind of the Dark Souls of its day.
No, it really was. It really was. And it was so fucking cool to play. So me and a couple of friends were playing, and we got together one day. We're smoking some pot. And we're talking about, like, what we can do in Ultima. Like, we need to start making some money. I'm tired of... At the time, we were trying to save up for our own little house. And that's another cool thing about Ultima is that you could buy a house and build it in the world, and it existed as a tangible object that could actually be broken into by other players and burglarized, which is totally unheard of. Once again, anyway, I'm going on and on about that. So we got together and we were like, how are we going to make some fucking money without boring ourselves to tears in this game? So we decided to run a scam. And the scam went like this, okay? We would stand near the bank in the main town, which was called Britain in this game, which is where everybody hung out to sell things and recruit for their guild or whatever, find people that could make them this, that, or the other thing. It was just like a big marketplace of people. And we would all dress alike, and we would start spamming the chat with invites to our guilds, right? Or we were going to talk about this guild, right? Are you tired of having to spend hours chopping trees and making bows and arrows to fund your PvP? Well, we have the fucking answer, man. We have a fucking castle on an island, which could exist in this game. We have a castle on an island with chests in it full of everything that you need. And any member of our guild, as long as we trust you, can freely take what they need, as long as, every once in a while you put a little back. So we're playing into that human greed, right? We're twisting the nipple a little bit, going, oh, I might be able to rip these guys off and never have to worry about money again, right? But of course, there is no guild. There is no fucking castle. There's no chests. We don't have anything ourselves. So we start talking to people. Now, in Ultima at the time that I was playing, there are different character types you could play, and one of them was a mage. And mages were incredibly powerful, but they were also incredibly expensive. It took a lot of money and time to make a mage, and the most precious thing to a mage in Ultima was their spell book, because you have to buy each individual spell and then scribe it into your spell book, and they're very expensive, and you have to travel all over the fucking world to get these spells. So a full spell book is a mage's best friend, their most valuable possession. So we would start talking to these people, and some people weren't quite thirsty enough. They'd go, haha, no thanks. But there were a few people, and let me tell you a story about what happened, like in general. We would go, okay, so look, we're not bullshitting you here. We're shooting straight. But we need to be able to trust you, right? Because of course, anybody would want to just come loot us dry. So we need to know that you are willing to put your shit on the line for us before we put our shit on the line for you. Okay, well, what do you need? Give us everything that you've got. What do you mean everything I've got? Everything you're wearing. Take it, put it in a bag, and put it in a trade window. Well, okay, and everything in your bank. Everything in my bank. Everything in your bank. Put it in a bag, put it in a trade window. What about my spell book? Definitely your spell book. In a bag.
Voluntary highway robbery.
I said, look, dude, this is just a trust exercise. As soon as you've done this, you're going to be on a fucking island filled with fucking treasures. So people would do it. They would hand it over. Now, I, being me, couldn't just leave it the way it was, right? I couldn't just walk away and go, LOL, faggot, you just got raped. Thanks for the shit and log off, right? I had to have a little flourish at the end. So I would tell them after they gave me the stuff, I would tell them, I would say, you've made the right choice today. Welcome to the Brotherhood, man. So what you're going to do is you're going to head to the docks. And there's going to be a ship there waiting for you. You'll know the ship because they're one of our guild members. One of our guild members will be waiting there for you to pilot the ship to the island. We'll get you all set up, okay? Oh man, thank you guys so much. It's so fucking awesome. What's the guy's name that I'm looking for at the docks? And of course, I had this go-to name I used every time, which was UBEENSCROOD. You've been screwed. And I would tell him, you're going to meet a guy named You've Been Screwed at the docks. And he's going to take you to the magical palace.
PaulsEgo scams people.
Give the money back, Paul.
Give the money back, PaulsEgo.
Sounds like the original.
Give the bows back.
It just sounds like the original version of Star Citizen, basically, is what it.
No, it
late
really is.
'90s Star Citizen a little bit.
It really is. I mean, they were doing it back then, and I'm really excited to see some games are starting to go that direction now. Because to be able to do that, I used to do other shit too. My main
No. I mean the scam aspect. I'm not even talking about the fucking gameplay. I'm talking about taking people's fucking money and running.
My main character was named Toothless Crackho, and I would hang out in the Britain Graveyard, which is a place where people would hang. It was a good place to grind for money because there were a lot of skeletons and zombies that spawned there. But it was also a hangout for rogues and thieves of the night and whores like me. And I would hide, because in this game you could hide, you could pick pockets. So I would hide and pick people's pockets while they were fighting skeletons. And then if they attacked me, because if you attack somebody first, then never mind. I'm not going to explain the whole situation. But let's just say that if I steal from them successfully and they attack me, I can now kill them without any repercussions. So I'm wearing nothing, and they think, oh, this fucking idiot newbie thief guy just stole something from me. I'm just going to whack him a couple times with my sword. And then I light him up because I'm a master mage, right? So, and then I take everything that he owns for my own.
The extent of my Ultima Online experience was venturing five entire feet outside of town and being just raped in every hole by everyone.
And that's, I think, the reason why we see MMOs the way they are today. And I'll wrap it up there, because people didn't like that. People didn't like that feeling of not being safe. They wanted to be cuddled. They wanted a little hug box where they didn't lose their stuff if a mean old ganker came along. And I'm really excited to see some games starting to cut away from that mold a little bit, because if a game comes out that can approximate Ultima Online, I'll be playing it. Absolutely. Sweet. And that story solved.
Yeah. I just want some evidence. What do you mean you want fucking evidence? There's ample fucking evidence. You just don't believe it. It doesn't matter what anyone would bring to you. If they brought the corpses of the kids and laid them on your front fucking lawn, you'd be like, these are fake corpses from Africa or something. Or these came from a lab. I don't trust it.
Like
this guy.
My favorite thing about this guy is that he's claiming he's got 25 grand, right, to give to somebody to prove. If he's got 25 grand that he's willing to just spend on frivolous bullshit, why doesn't he just fly to fucking Newtown, Connecticut, and talk to some of the fucking people who lost kids and go to the scene and visit the fucking graves and shit? Like, no, I'm just gonna sit here in my fucking depressing room with this ugly hutch behind me and offer 25 grand to anybody that can prove me.
Oh my god.
Damn one of you is a liar.
All of them.
It's a bullshit
Your
offer to
children
begin
died.
with.
You're claiming your children died. You're a fucking liar. And I'm calling you a liar to your fucking face. And I'll give you 25 grand. I'll give you 25 grand if you can show me an autopsy photo of your child with a bullet hole in its forehead. You lying, crisis-acting piece of shit.
Why do I require you to put up $25,000 in order to submit proof to me? Well, first of all, some of you people say you should get $25,000 run off Las Vegas. No, you idiot. $25,000 that you put up with your evidence that Sandy Hook is real, since you're claiming that it's real.
Wait a minute. You have to put up money too?
What?
Oh yeah, that's part of the thing. These people always do. If you need to put up the money too, though, it's like because it's like okay.
So wait, I have to put up my money, and then you have to put up your money, and then the arbiter of who wins is you.
Yeah, he decides.
What a brilliant fucking scam, huh?
Okay, guys, let's put up 25,000 escrow and go against this guy. I bet you that somehow we'll prevail, even though he's the judge.
Listen, I know you're claiming, quote unquote, that your kids died, okay? So here's what you have to do to get me to shut my fat sewer of a fucking mouth. You have to put $25,000 in escrow and bring me a picture of your fucking kids' fucking funeral. And then I'll pay you the $25.
An escrow account with my $25,000 that says Sandy Hook is complete and utter bullshit.
Paul, you made me cry.
And the escrow